It takes a little bit. There you go. Then go to the Audacity. Anita? Oh, Antini. And then here, right? Yep. Suzanne's going to do the minutes tonight. She's around, but we're actually hiring a new person in our office that's going to start being the secretary for the planning commission. So they should be here hopefully next month. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, you can minimize it.
Yeah, we tried a few different kinds and it just like pick up just a little bit, but maybe with the new microphones it might work better. So Francis with a capital F.
All right.
Okay, awesome. That didn't work. Really? Do you want to grab a white chair? Sounds good. I know Rich is coming, so I think we can get going. But
I sent him a text.
yeah, he told me he'd be here today. So.
We're still good.
Yeah, he should be here in a minute.
We're good.
Okay, we're good. We can go ahead and get going.
Hey, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming. It's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And with that, our first action item is a public hearing. But Katie, do you want to give a staff report first?
Yeah, I will. So, sorry, just getting adjusted to these new system. Let me know if you can't hear us. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the code amendment. I'm going to make that a little bigger. All right. So let's see. So this one is on the number of building stories in the city center zone. Mayor Foreman directed staff to initiate a code text amendment to consider increasing the maximum number of building stories allowed in the city center zone. The current code limits structures to 3 stories, and the amendment proposes increasing the limit to 4 stories. So just to be clear, it doesn't change the height. I know that I've seen some misconceptions about changing height. The height in the city center zone is set at a maximum of 45 feet. That does not change, but it allows, if the amendment proposes allowing 4 stories instead of the maximum of 3 stories. So, a little bit of history. When we approved the 45-foot height, we probably should have looked at this one at the same time, but we overlooked it, saw it later while we were going through some things and realized that we had this 3-story limit in our height, in our code. The purpose of the height amendment back when we did it in August was to incentivize development in the city center zone and to increase the amount of tax revenue the city will receive from development in this area. The city center zone was established to create a strong commercial identity at the heart of Francis City. It includes roughly a 650 to 1,000-foot radius around the flashing 4-way stop at the intersection of SR 32 and 35. So just right here where we're at right now. The general plan has quite a bit of guidance that we could look at when evaluating this. Our mission statement, it says the City of Francis has a core mission to provide the highest quality of life in a rural atmosphere through essential infrastructure, public safety, and recreation by allowing responsible growth within the constraints of fiscally responsible government. Then we have several economic development goals that talk about having the rate of commercial growth be higher than the rate of residential growth, promoting a positive environment for businesses to strengthen and improve the city's tax base and quality of life, create and maintain a sustainable economic base for Francis City, providing tax revenues, increase local employment, and convenience of shopping and restaurants. Anyway, those are most of the economic goals to consider. My recommendation is to discuss the proposed amendment and make changes if needed. Looking at the amendment that's on the screen, it's pretty simple. It's just one word change. So there's really not much to go over there, but discuss it. And then motion one of three options. You can have a positive recommendation. So this goes to the city council for a final vote. Planning commission will make a recommendation. So we can do a positive recommendation if you feel like it's in the best interest of the city. Negative if it feel like it's not in the best interest of the city, or you can table it if we need more time to discuss it. Public hearing is required for this item because it's a code text amendment. I do have several comments that are already written and sent to me that I need to read. So I go through those at the beginning of the public hearing, and then we can open it up to everybody else. So,
Sounds good.
all right, that's it for me. Hey, Rusty, and maybe some other people, since we're running out of chairs. We have some chairs in our storage room. You want to go grab them? Thank you.
Do you want to give it a second and then we'll open it up? Or
Yeah, if it's up to you how you want to handle it, I can go ahead and start reading the comments, whatever you like.
yeah, we'll open up for public comment. We'll start with Katie. Let's start with the written ones.
Okay.
And then I'll give some a little bit more guidance since we have such a full house to see if we can get through
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 public hearings.
Yes. Yep. Good plan. Okay. So the first one is from Hillary Boudreau. Hi there. I'm a deeply concerned citizen about this proposed 4-story hotel being built in a town with no other businesses other than a failed burger convenience store. Why the large height? Why do we need such a large hotel in our small town? It's going to look ridiculous. The proposed picture of it also looks like a nursing home, not a hotel. Please, please, please do not put a gigantic hotel in Francis. This is from Joseph Feinberg. I think allowing a code change to permit 4-story structures in Francis will really adversely change the character of the town. Is there an architectural review process for the town? Thank you for your consideration. This is from Andy F. We oppose the zoning change for the hotel to be 4 stories. This is from Richard Young. I feel a tall hotel structure is out of character with this location. How does it offer any redeeming value or benefit to the area? How does it fit into the overall vision and plan for this intersection? Are we getting out over the front of our skis moving forward with this proposal? Alexis Salinas. Here's my vote. I do not want this 4-story hotel in Francis. Daleen Weller. Hi, as I will not be able to attend the public hearing tomorrow, I'm writing to share my opposition to the proposed code changes for the hotel plans in Francis. I am a Francis resident and I do not want the code changed from 3 to 4 stories in our community. I really love our small town, rural feel in this valley, and this change feels like a direct hit to maintaining the low-key lifestyle here. I do not want the increased traffic and lights and safety concerns this will bring. If there are arrangements for increased parking for this hotel by using city parking, I also strongly oppose that. If there is not enough acreage for their proposed parking needs, then the number of rooms and size of the building should be reduced. Thank you for your consideration. This is from Cherish McCormick. While I am not a Francis resident, I am a lifelong Camas Valley resident. I have lived in Camas, Oakley my entire life. My husband's ancestors settled the valley, and my ancestors are from Piowawanship. We love being able to raise our family in this rural town we call home. Having a 4-story hotel would change the valley, and in my opinion, not for the better. Please vote against the code change and keep Camas Valley from getting any larger. Thank you for your time as Valley officials. This is from Lindsay Hancock. Dear Francis City Council, I am writing to express my strong disagreement with the recent decision to allow 4-story buildings in the C1 commercial zone. By the way, we don't allow 4-story buildings in the C1 commercial zone. We do allow 40 feet, though. I firmly believe this change is incompatible with the values and character of Francis. In fact, I would like to advocate for a reduction in the maximum height allowance to 2 stories to better preserve the rural and open nature of our community. Here are my main concerns regarding the shift to 4 stories. Disruption of community character. Allowing 4-story buildings fundamentally alters the small town rural feel that makes Francis unique. The charm of our town lies in its open spaces and unassuming architecture, which taller buildings threaten to undermine. Negative aesthetic impact. Structures of this size will block scenic views, create visual clutter, and overshadow surrounding areas, detracting from the beauty of Francis and its surroundings. Sustainability of large developments. Larger structures, particularly hotels or high-density commercial properties, may not be sustainable in our community. If they remain vacant for extended periods, landlords may lower rents significantly, potentially inviting undesirable tenants or groups. Concerns about crime and safety. Increased density brings higher traffic volumes, potential safety issues, and risks of crime, none of which align with the peaceful lifestyle Francis residents value. While I disagree with the move to 4 stories, I also believe that 3 stories may still be too much for Francis. Please maintain our town's rural identity, ensuring development remains harmonious with our values and natural surroundings. Do you really want to live here in another densely populated city? Isn't that why we are all here? I also request the recent height increase from 40 to 45 feet be brought to a vote again. Many council members mentioned they didn't realize it had happened, etc. This change, combined with the increase to 4 stories, exacerbates all the concerns outlined above and feels misaligned with what the majority of residents desire. As a resident, I appreciate the challenges of balancing growth with preservation. However, I urge the council to reconsider these decisions and prioritize policies that reflect the values and expectations of our community and not just quick money grabs that may not have long-term growth strategy in mind. Maintaining low building heights and density is one way we can preserve the essence of Francis and ensure its long-term appeal. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I look forward to updates on any further discussions or votes. This is from Kristen Klingler. As a member of this valley, I'm opposed to the building code being changed to 4 stories. I agree some change is good, but this change is not. Francis residents want this town to stay a small town, and the thought of a 4-story hotel on the corner of Highway 35 and 32 is not the answer. Please think about the effects this will have on the residents of the valley. Thank you for reading and for your consideration. Erica Cuevas, here is my vote. I do not want this 4-story hotel in Francis. Jacqueline Payne, dear Planning Commission, on behalf of the residents of Francis and myself, I wanted to email my concerns about the following proposed hotels in our community. I urge you to ensure the city's vision of a rural, family-friendly community by limiting all buildings to the code of 3 stories, require adequate parking without burdening neighborhoods, address how we will keep crime out of our community, allowing hotels to bring in more traffic and crime. How do we ensure safety for our children in our neighborhoods, bringing in businesses that attract crime? Thank you for your attention to this matter. Marshall Gillespie, I am totally against changing the building height restriction in Francis, Utah, especially against this change for proposed hotels in the city. I vote no on any building height change unless lower. Thanks. This is from Nick Sims, to whom it may concern. I am the owner of a home on Parley's Loop in Francis, and I am writing to oppose the city center zone architectural increase to 3 stories, from 3 to 4. We moved here because of the rural feel and no tall buildings. I understand that the growth and popularity means that things have to change to keep up, and a hotel would bring extra revenue to Francis, but I am opposed to taking the building to 4 floors. This is from Heather Ferguson Sims. I am the owner of 1915 Parley's Loop in Francis, and I am writing to oppose the code amendment. From Jennifer Gaia, and this is almost the last one here. I am writing to express my disapproval in allowing the commercial building height of a 45 4-story foot building in our community. Also, building height should be measured by the natural ground level and not from fill soil level. Changing the building height from 3 to 4-story changes the character of our valley. Please listen to your community. We are telling you that we want to maintain the rural character of our town and our valley. And then this one kind of covered several of the topics in our public hearings tonight. So I'm just going to read the part about the code amendment. This is from Hugh and Marilyn Douglas. As far as raising the code for building heights, 2 stories anywhere is high enough. We certainly should not be in the business of blocking anyone's view of the spectacular mountains we have around us. That's it for the written comments for that bunch.
Awesome. Thank you. Tonight, I'd love to open it up for public comment. Thank you, everyone, for coming. In order to make this as efficient as possible, when you approach, please state your name and address for the city record. Suzanne will have to jot that down. If you agree with things that have been said previously, it's in the best interest if you state that you agree with the things previously said rather than restate the whole thing. That makes it go a little bit smoother and does not lose impact. And that being said, we're going to limit the time to 2 minutes. So I'll politely keep track up here. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions? Awesome. So with that, we'll open it up. Public comment on the floor. Go ahead and approach. State your name, state your address. I'll work the recorder and we'll go from there.
Perfect. I'm David Sutherland, 1162 Village Drive. I want to ask the commission to provide a negative recommendation to the city council regarding this code text amendment. I think this isn't really a question about what the intent of the height change in August was. It's the question is really what is the intent of what we should be doing now. I think by the representation and the engagement of your constituency, it's obvious that the city doesn't want the action that was taken in August, nor this adjustment today. These actions fly in the face of the core values that were stated earlier in this meeting of what Francis holds dear and values. I'd request that you actually, instead of not making this, you also make a recommendation to the council to lower the building height restrictions throughout the city. I feel fairly confident, I'll go out on a limb here, but I feel fairly confident that this will go to a referendum if this is passed by the city, because less than 48 hours ago, I started a petition online, sent a text to my wife with the link of it, and that's it. I didn't post it anywhere, and we've had 200 people signed on that petition. It only takes 630 by our latest census to get this on a referendum. So this will be going to a vote. Let's save everybody the headache. Let's provide a negative recommendation and ask the city council to please reconsider what they took the action in August for. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Brown. Lived here a whole long time, probably longer than most of you have been alive. I'm dead set against going the additional height. What are the city goals? I would like to have Katie read this line here, last 3 lines on the city goals here.
Okay, Francis will continue to be a rural and family-friendly community. Preservation of our agricultural heritage, dark skies, scenic views, and open spaces are our priority. Growth will be sustainable, well-planned, and consistent with the zoning map and general plan. I did skip over a few things in my staff report. That was one of them.
Okay, this is in the goals of the city. And a 3-story building may be okay, but a 4-story, I would question the ability of the fire department to show up on a disaster. Ex-firemen, we don't go over our ladder heights. So, you know, that is an additional height problem and an additional problem. And there is no fire protection available for that. And then the next thing, with the additional height, we're going to have additional cars. And I wonder where they're going to park. In here, it says they want to share the parking with the city. I got news for you. The day that it's going to be busy are the day we got town days. There's not going to be parking spaces. So it's not good to have the city back up somebody that's going to hurt the people on the committee here and the people that are paying taxes for parking spots for that days. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else who'd like to comment on city height? Yep. It's okay if you guys want to form a line. I'm fine with that too.
Doug Coe, 91 East State Road 35. right across the road from where this is going in. So back in 2019, I was the one that opposed the rezoning of this for commercial. It was residential. You have all the residential area here anyway. Now we have all these commercial zones all throughout the valley. And I definitely do not agree that we should change the zone from 4 or from 3 to 4. Absolutely not.
Thank you, sir.
Porter Spencer, 705 Oak Lane. I call this town my home. I've been here my whole life. I grew up here. I've watched it change over the years. I'm here tonight because I care deeply about the future of this town, the community, and its character. The proposed hotels are too big, too tall, and completely out of step with what Francis represents. These developments would tower our town and disrupt the small, close-knit feel that has made this place special for generations. Francis is not a big city. We don't need oversized buildings that put profits ahead of our community's values and way of life. Beyond aesthetics, these hotels would be a huge strain on our infrastructure. Are these hotels truly in the best interest of the people who live here, or are they just serving outsiders' interests that could care less about our town? Growth is inevitable. We all know that, but it needs to be thoughtful and balanced. You all have the opportunity here to preserve the unique identity of Francis while still encouraging responsible development that respects the scale and character of our town. I urge you all to reconsider these plans, prioritize development that fits within the spirit of this community. I was at a meeting a while back, I don't remember what it's called, but something was introduced into the code that limited the number of RV parks or something like that. It limited the number of RV parks in the city to 2. That needs to be done with hotels. First it was 1, now there's 2, and I hear there might be a 3rd in the works. It needs to be addressed, as well as the commercial building height regulations. We don't need 45 feet. We have the tallest building height in the whole valley. Why is Francis special? Nobody knows. We should try and keep it consistent with the rest of the valley and lower our building height. It is not in the best interest of the general public to have these huge hotels and overdevelopment. The pros do not outweigh the cons by any means in this situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is James DeGray. I live at 1744 South McNeil Circle here in town. The last time this was discussed and there was some opportunity for public comment, the statement was made by the developer that it's already 45 feet. He's building to 45 feet. The question before the city was, do we want the revenue? I just want to encourage everyone not to be confused by that false dichotomy. There are more questions. Even if nothing can be done about the 45 feet and the building went that tall, there are still very important questions outside of just revenue to be addressed in, do we allow 4 stories? Because that question will have to be asked every time another building is pushing that maximum. How often do we increase that traffic by allowing a 4th story until it does become a problem? So the question before the city is not just, do we switch to 4 stories instead of 3 and gain all that revenue? There's a lot more to it. And I just encourage everyone to remember that and not let that false dichotomy of you get the revenue or not, and that's the only question before you, be something that really moves the needle. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else?
So Don Loftus, 129 West, 2200 South. Hi, everybody. So right now, the building is 40 feet is what's allowed.
45.
It's currently 45.
And he's going to that height.
He's proposing 45 with 4 stories, and right now it allows 45 with 3
So-
stories.
So the height is the same. We're just calling a 3-story a 4-story so that we're just arguing over the terminology of how of a 3rd story or a 4-story, but the height is the exact same.
Correct.
Yes.
So if everybody has a problem, it's not the 4-story they have the problem with, it's the height that they probably have the problem with. And so my question is really more, is this like a restaurant with a bar in it, or is it a bar that serves food?
We'll
Because
get to
I
that
don't
item
know-
later. This one, we're just talking about the code amendment.
Well, because it's really, it goes into everything, because everybody's going to have an opinion on what it's going to be. If it's a nice restaurant with a hotel and all these things, everybody can be on that. But if it's a honky tonk with a bunch of, drunken craziness, people might be opposed to that.
We'll
And
get a
so-
lot more into that. That's a
Well, no,
little
but
later
it's-
on the agenda,
I
so
guess
we'll get
here's what
there.
I'll say. I know that the whole thing, almost all of these are intertwined together.
Okay.
But if I can't separate them and segment them into one, then I can't get it.
Well, because people could be more behind it because we're just arguing over, the height is the same. We're just arguing over 3 or 4 stories. So that
I
doesn't.
actually know exactly, I see exactly
So-
what you're
so
saying.
I don't know what we care about, how tall the roof, the pitch of the roof is. It doesn't really matter. It's going to be 45 feet. And so just out of curiosity, what are everybody else's height? Are they 30, 35 feet? Do you know?
I don't want to go into that right now. We have looked at it in the past. So there's some staff reports out there. If you come talk to me, I'll show you what that
Okay,
is.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
I think if it's going to be done well and it's going to be something, we need some kind of a landmark that our city can be built around. And so there needs to be a cornerstone set. And if Rusty's going to build a nice cornerstone, I think people would be behind that. But we have to know that it's going to be something that everybody in the community wants to be part of. High Star just spent $100 million and closed down. So I don't know what we think we're doing here, but the Olympics are coming whether we like it or not. So we got 10 years to get ready for whatever we're going to do during that time. So I think if we're just arguing over the height is the same, well, 4-story or 45 feet, what does it matter? And so that's just where I'm at. But like I said, let's just get everybody's cards on the table so we know what we're opposing or what we're supporting. That would be an easier thing if we knew the vision of what this was going to be, because we've heard 10 different stories. It's going to have a drive-through and it's going to have a steakhouse. It's like, I'm not going to Rumby in a steakhouse in a hotel, so it doesn't make any sense. So if there was some more clarity, that might help everybody out a little bit.
We'll get there. We're getting there. I
promise
promise.
you it's coming.
I'll also just add the reason it's segmented is because this is going to apply to the whole city. So there was a hotel proposed a couple months ago over that way.
On
Well,
Lambert.
I'm
Right.
dreaming-
I know that this isn't.
This doesn't apply to
Oh,
that.
okay.
That's the commercial zone, so it wouldn't apply to that.
Volkswagen shop. So you
This
guys
just
are all
applies
good
to
with
city
me, so
center
it's all
zone.
good by-
Gotcha.
by what I'm about. So like I said, let's just all get on the same page so that we can know what we're opposing or what we're supporting. It would be easier if everybody had a better picture of what we were actually trying to get behind or what we were trying to oppose. Because this 3rd or 4th story, if it's 45 feet, it's 45 feet. It doesn't matter.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
thank you.
Good evening. First of all, thanks for doing what you're doing on the planning commission. My name is Bob Wheaton. I live on Highway 35. And a couple of thoughts following the comments that the previous gentleman just made. With 45 feet, at least in my opinion, 45 feet is way too high, even for a town center. And I do have a fair amount of background with architectural design. The thing to think about is whether it's 40 feet, whether it's 45 feet, that's the top of the building. If a 45-foot building has 4 stories, typical commercial construction is 10 foot per story. So that's 40 feet. That gives you 5 feet for any kind of iconic building, which certainly should happen in the city town center. In my opinion, if it's a 45-foot height limit with that 5 foot, it's going to look more like the strip malls on State Street down in Salt Lake versus an iconic building where you go, oh, that's the town center. So please think about that. Also, if you wouldn't mind, please think about the latitude to reduce it to 40 feet. But at least in my opinion, 3 stories is more than enough, and it would give some architectural latitude to design the building to be a building that we can all be proud of in the city center. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody else?
I agree with him.
My favorite comment. All right, with that, we'll close public comment and then open up to the floor. Scott?
Let's see. So first of all, let's focus, at least for me, I'd like to focus on precisely what it is that we're doing here. Can you hear my phone? Of course. I don't see red. Oh,
There you
we go. Okay, very good. So looking specifically at what we were trying to accomplish by this code text amendment, I can appreciate the fact that many of the comments relate to the everybody's or a good portion of the people that are here, their feeling on this project in total or fit or all that. And I appreciate that. What's before us today is specifically restricted for this item to whether or not there should be 4 stories. I think that there's been a couple good points that stood out to me. One related to fire protection and whether or not there is the capability on the part of the fire department to provide services for 45 feet. And whether it's 3 stories or 4 stories doesn't change the fact that the fire department has to approve these plans. And there's been some separate discussion when it comes to how fire protection would work. So I don't believe that that is related to this directly. The other one that really stands out to me was the design. I appreciated that last commenter talking about how that design would work. That stands out to me. But in the end, I also know that there is a design review process. And I believe that if it looks like kind of the way it was described, like flat mall, then there would certainly be challenges with that type of a design being approved. So I believe that it's important that we support property owners and what they want to do with their property. For me, whether it's 3 or 4 stories, has the same impact when it comes to total height. So I would support 4 stories and an adjustment to this code text.
Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. When we approved the 45-foot, I didn't expect it to be 55% of the lot area. I expected to see maybe like a tower or something significant that would be an iconic building structure to make it stand out and look unique. I drive to Salt Lake 4 times a week, and I drive past monstrosity buildings. I work at the Salt Lake Airport, and we have 25 floors. I can appreciate the 45-foot height. It's huge. And next to the rural field in Francis, I think it's going to be astronomically, it's just going to stand out and make everything look out of place. I really appreciate the fire situation too, with everything that's going on in California right now. I think that hits home. But I also feel strongly that even though we're not voted in as planning commission members, we should vote on behalf of the population and how they feel about what's coming. And so I would vote against this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. I also, this is where we get involved, right? This is where we come together as a community, is with text amendments, is when we're making zoning changes. This is our opportunity to protect the city and say what we do and don't want to be built in the city, right? And I think that the public has spoken for themselves tonight. I think that there's a very clear representation of where this is going. I have Katie, can you speak to the design review process here? Is there development review committee? Is there, what's the process here?
So we handle that as part of the commercial development review. We're actually going to be looking at 2 sets of architectural plans tonight as part of that. So both the planning commission and the city council look at that and decide if it meets what we have in our code for architectural requirements.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, the gentleman that talked about the iconic buildings and the height, I like what he said about that. But yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that we do not approve a 4-story building tonight.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the comments that have been made. I think to push back a little bit on the comment about design review, yes, we do have a design review, but we're very limited. And if we allow 45 feet and 4 stories, there's only so much, like the gentleman said, that you can do with 5 feet. And as we found out in the conditional use process, it's really hard to deny things if they're allowed in the code. And I don't see us having much flexibility there. I think 3 versus 4 stories is a significant change, not just for optical purposes, but also for the purposes of what that makes economically viable and what people will be able to pack onto their land. I think in addition to the comments that people have made here, it's reflecting not just the optics of what they want the city to look like, but the kind of businesses that they want here. And I'm not hearing or feeling any support for businesses that need 4 stories to survive. And then another point, we talk about property rights, but property rights also cuts both ways. And while a person has a right to develop something on their land, that also takes or gives value to adjacent property. And we can't view property rights in a vacuum because everything impacts their land. You know, just like I can't go out and build a nuclear reactor on my land because that would detrimentally impact other people's property rights. We can't say that the owner's property right trumps everything. And I think when you look at the character of the valley, the nature of the city, that 4 stories would just be a behemoth next to and dwarf smaller buildings in the area. So like Kim and McKenna, I'm sorry, I'm sick and a little bit fuzzy in the head. I agree, I just don't see this as the path forward.
The initial change discussed, I thought was connected to a parapet to allow for mechanical for a 3-story hotel in a different zone.
Yeah,
And
way
then-
back, there was a few different amendments that went through last year that were,
And then we realized that that didn't align with the city center, correct?
well, it's kind of a long history. So we looked at
Close
the
enough.
parapet walls and then we, that one, parts of it didn't get approved, parts of it did go
Got it.
through. And then we looked at the 40 versus 45.
Okay. Yeah, I believe that 3 stories is my intent. And when I agreed to increase it, I was under the impression that that would be to allow for mechanical and coverage of that. So I too am opposed to a 4-story.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion for a negative recommendation on this. In addition to that, I'd like to, let's see, what was the other things I want to recommend? I'd also like to recommend that we notify landowners of potential code changes so that we don't get more applications that take advantage of current regulations, so that we can give the city time to reflect on what's actually going on and what they want.
I second the motion.
If the city is currently looking at code changes, it does kind of block development it kind of stalls development, right? Until the city decides on new codes.
So sometimes we can do what's called a moratorium. But if there's an application that's submitted, then it wouldn't apply to that because then they're already vested. So yes, in certain circumstances, you can pause things while you're considering code changes. As far as the motion, I will say that with notifying landowners, we do notice everything on the website and the public notice website for the state and outside of our buildings. So we do notice everything. If there is a zone change in your area, then you will be also noticed. Typically, we don't notice code amendments because we don't address them to everyone in the city because we'd be sending things to everyone in the city almost every month.
Do you need a clean motion?
Anyway, I don't care if you want to keep that motion. I just just want to give you that caution that probably the best way to find out about code amendments is to keep looking at the city agendas that are posted on the website.
I second the motion.
Okay, well, can you
Hang
you
on.
might want to restate that then, because I can't motion.
Yeah, and do we have the city attorney here tonight?
No.
Yeah, so the reason for that second part, my understanding, and like I said, I'm a bit fuzzy, is that if you can notify people, then that prevents the opportunity to submit more applications while the process is going on. And so that's the intent, is to provide some notice so that we don't get more applications while these code changes are being made. But
Okay, so
I could be misremembering
I
what the city attorney
probably
said.
misinterpreted what you said. So you're saying that we should pause. So you suggest looking at this and also putting a moratorium on it
Sure,
for any future development until we can figure out what
Yes.
we want the code to say.
Mhm.
Just
Okay.
for this zone.
yes.
But just for for 3
Well,
versus 4
I'd say
stories?
for all commercial until we figure out what we want. I think there's enough community involvement and community consternation that as a city, we need to figure out what we're doing. And we need to get the community behind our goals and move forward in a unified manner.
Okay.
Otherwise, every one of these is going to turn into a dogfight.
Okay, so I just want to restate this and make sure this is what you're saying, is that you recommend, so you're saying your motion is a negative recommendation
And recommend
With-
a moratorium.
and recommend a moratorium on commercial and city center
No, all commercial.
projects. Well, so city center.
Yes, city center.
City
and all.
center and commercial zone
Mhm.
projects until we have some time to reevaluate our city center and commercial zoning.
Correct.
Okay. So. Are you okay with
Kim,
Yeah.
So that's a new motion.
Should we
Yeah.
split that up?
Second it again?
And I don't think you can make a motion on something that's not on the agenda.
right.
Right,
You can recommend it afterwards, but as part of
Yeah.
your motion, it's not part of
Perfect.
the agenda.
yeah.
So then let me rephrase the motion. So I motion for negative recommendation. And separate from the motion, we should recommend again to the city council that we need to reevaluate things and that we should put a moratorium in place until we can get the city behind everything.
Okay, vote, or second.
I second the motion.
Scott, vote.
So my vote is nay, but I definitely support the recommendation that you put forward. I think that would be very appropriate.
I vote no. I mean, I agree with the moratorium.
Aye.
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 All right.
Okay.
The next, we have a public hearing on the Town Center Hotel conditional use permit. Katie, I'm assuming you have additional staff report.
Yeah, hold on one sec while I just
Sure.
finish writing that motion here. Okay, I think I got enough that I can move on. All right. So let me flip this view here.
Katie,
Yeah,
because we did not, should we still let this go forward, even though we didn't do the text amendment? And then, like, because I think a lot of things are gonna maybe change with that text amendment
Yep.
being rejected.
yes. And so that's a great question. And I think this is the perfect time to address it. So just let me, okay. So this is how we're going to approach it. We're going to go ahead and move forward. And on the architectural review portion, I would recommend having a condition based on the decision of the city council on that item. Does that make sense? So if you feel like the architecture, for instance, hypothetical situation, you feel like it meets the code intent. We'll read through that. And you feel like it meets that, one option is to say, we forward this to the city council with a positive recommendation with the condition that the height change code, the code amendment on the stories gets approved, right? Because like you said, the design is for a 4-story. So if the city council does not approve that the number of stories changed to 4 stories, then this will all have to come back for architectural review again, because that plan will change. So you might see this again. You could also, so I think it's an option to forward it either positive or negative with that condition or with that. I mean, we all know what the issues are here, and the city council will have the same items on their agenda. They will not be approving the architecture until it meets the code, right? Does that make sense?
It does.
So I think we can proceed as long as we are aware of how that will work. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna dive into my staff report. This is the longest staff report I've ever written. So I will skip through some parts just for the sake of time here, but it's still gonna be a bit. I do ask that everyone just try to be respectful as I read through my report. So appreciate that. This was co-written by me and the city attorney, just to put that out there. So the location of the proposed town center commercial development is on the southwest corner of State Road 35 and Spring Hollow Road. It's adjacent to and directly north of the new Francis City Hall. Town center will be built on parcels FT 90, 92, and 99. The combined parcel acreage is 3.49 acres. They are in the city center zone. All right, a little bit of background here. Commercial development plans for town center were approved in the fall of 2022. 2 mixed-use commercial and residential structures on parcels FT 99 and 92 were approved at the time. Russ Witt was the applicant. The town center property was purchased by Rusty Webster in 2024. Webster also became the owner of the neighboring property, FT 90, in 2024. So to summarize this whole thing, I'm going to switch over to the site plan. Get that where I want it. Okay. I think that, there we go. All right. The applicant, Rusty Webster, submitted 5 applications that will be considered in this report. Commercial development updated plans, conditional use permit for a hotel, conditional use permit for a restaurant serving alcohol, conditional use permit for drive-through 1, and conditional use permit for drive-through 2. The applicant also submitted a subdivision application that will be reviewed separately. We won't be discussing that in this meeting. Webster is updating the commercial development plans to expand the town center project onto parcel FT 90 to add a hotel and to add a building with a drive-through restaurant space, a retail space, and 3 apartments. So you can kind of see that here. These 2 buildings are the spaces where half of the commercial would be probably allotted to a drive-through restaurant. These are the retail spaces. We don't have any specific plans yet for those. We're just considering them retail at this time. This is the proposed restaurant location that would serve alcohol. And this part of the footprint is the hotel. It's connected through a little bit of like a breezeway. Anyway, we already went through some of the general plan guidance in the last, so I'm not going to go through too much of it. We do have in our vision to consider a lot of different things. We want to be rural, family-friendly, preservation of agricultural heritage, dark skies, scenic views, and open spaces. Growth will be sustainable, well-planned, and consistent with the zoning map and general plan. We also have in there that development has to be approved on the construction of adequate utilities. And Scott will talk about that more, city engineer. Also have to have access and parking, so we will get to that. And I went over the economic goals already that pertain to the commercial growth. The city center zone hereinafter, also referred to as the city center zone, is established too. So these are, when we established the city center zone in 2017, 18, somewhere in there, there was 7 goals that we looked at when establishing that. To create a strong commercial identity at the heart of Francis City, we want to provide, encourage private and public investment, attract shoppers and visitors, and appeal to existing and new residents. Promote a diverse mix of residential, business, and commercial spaces. Encourage pedestrian-oriented development. Create a place that represents a unique, attractive, and memorable destination. Enhance the community's character through high-quality urban design, and provide opportunities to increase the city's sales tax base, thereby helping to fund public improvements and public services. The economic feasibility study provided by the applicant shows that the project supports the general plan economic development goals and policies in Goal 7 in establishing the city center. Okay, now I'm going to dive into commercial development. I'm just going to go through all of this. I know it's a lot, but I'm going to dive into the commercial development portion. Remember that this portion and the conditional uses, they're all administrative items. Okay, so commercial development, first we look at the trash storage area. There's 2 trash storage locations, one here and one here. They're both enclosed, which is the requirement of the code. and they're hidden from public and residential view. So I believe that the trash storage area complies with code. This will be one that you approve or deny as the planning commission. This won't go to city council. No, let's just keep rolling and we'll get there. I will put all these recommendations up on one screen when we get to that point, just to make it easier. Okay, parking. Parking is strongly encouraged to be located on the side and to the rear of the proposed structures with minimum parking between the front of the building and the street. The applicant estimates that 255 total parking spaces are required for the project. On-street parking on Spring Hollow was previously approved for the town center project. So that's these spaces here. This is Spring Hollow, and it aligns with what we have here in the new city center, the new city hall. Most of the parking is planned behind the structures. The parking plan was previously approved with the expectation that there would be a 25% reciprocal use reduction and a shared parking agreement with Francis City. So the reciprocal uses, what that means is that if you can prove that you have uses that are primarily daytime uses and other uses that are primarily nighttime uses, then you can come to the planning commission and apply for this. They can authorize a reciprocal use reduction up to 25%. But we are not quite there yet where we can authorize that. We need specific business licenses. We need some applications for those before we really look at the exact parking uses. And so that's probably something we'll see later, is whether or not we can approve that reciprocal use up to 25% maximum. Also, the shared parking agreement was something that was discussed previously when we looked at this commercial development the first time. They're seeking an agreement for 21 stalls. We don't have the details of that. That is something that we'll have to appraise what that value is, and they will need to compensate us for that value, but we haven't figured out the details yet. So the applicant is providing 170 stalls on site. A positive recommendation of the parking plan should be contingent upon the applicant reaching a shared parking agreement for at least 21 stalls with Francis City. Okay, I'm going to move on to the site plan. Really not too much for me to say here other than it does meet the setbacks, and Scott will be discussing all of those things we consider looking at the site plan a little bit more in his portion. Moving on to the landscape plan. Okay. I know that's a lot of detail. So, okay. So our code is fairly lengthy when it comes to landscape plans in the commercial or city center zones. I'm going to highlight some of the things that we require. We encourage water conservation as a primary consideration. Lawns shall not be installed in park strips. All ground areas shall contain grass or another ground cover acceptable to the Planning Commission. By the way, Planning Commission, this is something that you do approve or deny. This landscape plan will not go to the City Council, so keep that in mind. They have to have irrigation. They have to have trees. They'd like them to be 2 to 3 inches in caliper, or evergreen trees that are 5 to 8 feet. We encourage, don't require, but encourage a 50-50 mix of deciduous and evergreen trees. Street trees need to be placed at least 1 per 20 feet with a 2-inch caliper again. They can, the 1 per 20 feet is on the frontage. They can be planted in clusters to create a more natural and/or screening effect if appropriate, which I believe is appropriate in this case because of the retail on the ground level. Let's see. We also encourage a mix of shrubs and trees, so we have a combination of like medium and smaller plants. The applicant's landscape plan shows 66 2-inch caliper medium-sized deciduous trees, which is a mix of honey locust, quaking aspen, plum, and oak, and 4 medium-sized 8-foot spruce trees, 97 deciduous shrubs, 23 evergreen shrubs are planned throughout the development, as well as 2 types of perennials and a native shrub grass. Crushed rock is planned as the predominant ground cover, while Kentucky bluegrass park strips are planned on both sides of the State Road 35 entrance. Let me show you, the park strips are planned here and here. 11 trees are planned along Spring Hollow frontage. That's on this side. We have 11 that are planned. This side is 330 feet. This other side that's on State Route 35 is 600 feet, and there are 2 trees planned on that side. In the previous approval, the Planning Commission allowed a reduced number of trees along State Route 35 frontage so that the trees would not create a barrier in front of the street-facing storefronts. The landscape plans include irrigation plans. The site plan and landscape plans conflict, so I just wanted to point this out. If you look at this landscape plan, you see several like parking islands. Those were taken out of the latest version of the site plan. So you don't see those here. That was done to add more parking spaces, but they don't match. And so I wanted to point that out. The landscape plan is not compliant with these code requirements and recommendations. The cluster of 4 aspen trees near Spring Hollow entrance and the 2 plum trees near the State Road 35 entrance are within 45 feet of the intersection clear view area. So our code, I didn't highlight that, but we don't want to see trees right on that entrance. We want people to be able to clearly see in and out of the entrances, access points. There's also these 2 trees here. Kentucky bluegrass park strips are planned on both sides of the State Route 35 entrance. Lawn park strips are not allowed. That was a pretty new update to be compliant with state landscaping codes. Water conservation. And the number of deciduous and evergreen species is not the 50-50 recommended mix. Again, they had 4 evergreen, 66 deciduous. And the street trees are not planted at a rate of at least 1 per 20 feet on Spring Hollow Road and State Route 35. So I believe my recommendation is to table the landscape plan until it's compliant with code. All right. Moving on to architectural design and materials. First, we're going to let's look at the hotel architecture first. Pull that up. Was up earlier. Okay. Well, let me go back and grab it. Not sure why it's not there anymore. Okay, well, that's great. Okay. Nothing. All right. Planning Commission, are you able to see that on your screens? Okay, good. It is in that packet, so you should be able to. Okay, I'm just going to go back to this then. All right, so this is the, let's see. So I'm just going to flip through the designs first, and then I'll read through my report. Planning Commission, hopefully you can see the hotel on your iPads. It's in the staff report and the packet. This is the main development that was approved in the last round in 2022. It hasn't really changed too much. There are a few updates, but not significantly different. It's very similar to what it was. Here is one of the, this is drive-through 1/building, I believe this is building 1, but it's where the first drive-through would be. And that's one side of it. Some other views too, but this is building 3. And then, which is drive-through 2. Okay, we don't need to go there yet. So our architectural review says that the review will determine if the developer has effectively incorporated a mountain aesthetic with neutral colors that is in harmony with the surrounding landscape and structures. Structures are limited to 3 stories. The maximum building coverage shall be 55% of the lot area. Buildings in the city center zone shall not exceed 45 feet in height. The applicant is proposing a 4-story hotel. The building must be 3 stories or less to be compliant with code. A positive recommendation of the hotel architecture should be contingent upon the approval of ordinance 2025-01, increasing the limit on the number of stories in the city center zone to 4. The other buildings will be 3 stories and comply with the code. All the buildings are less than 45 feet and are compliant with code. The building coverage is less than 55% of the lot area and is compliant with code. The applicant is utilizing a mountain design theme for the hotel that ties in with the previously approved architectural plans for the town center development. The hotel will be connected to the town center development by covered walkways. The Planning Commission should discuss whether the applicant has effectively incorporated a mountain aesthetic architecture that meets the intent of the city center zone. Quickly, I'll go over density. We do allow mixed use in the city center zone, so they're allowed to have 8 dwellings per acre without any affordable housing elements. So that would be up to 28 units for this almost 3.5 acre lot. They're proposing 21 units. All right, outdoor lighting plan, that's the next one. Okay. So, again, I'll just run through certain parts of the outdoor lighting code. And they have to submit a lighting plan with the site development plan. They have to have all their fixtures be full cutoff. They can't exceed 100,000 lumens per acre. The lights can't be more than 18 feet high when they're adjacent to residential zones. Outdoor lighting shall be turned off or reduced total lumen usage output 50% by 11 p.m., except if they're open for 24 hours or for lighting that's been approved by the city council for security purposes. So on this parcel, they're allowed up to 349,000 lumens. I added up what they're proposing here, which is 9 parking lot lights, 15 wall-mounted lights, and that total is 178,990 lumens. All the lights are planned below 16 feet. They're below the 18 feet. They're at 12 feet or 10 feet. They will be full cutoff. They didn't note anything about turning off or reducing the lighting by 11 p.m. The code gives an exception to this for operations that are open 24 hours, such as a hotel. The Planning Commission should discuss with the applicant whether lighting in other areas of the development is needed for security purposes after 11 p.m. The lighting plan complies with the code if the lighting does not need to be reduced after 11 p.m. for security purposes. Okay, now we're going to get into the conditional uses. So I'm going to go through kind of a general approach for all of these, and then we'll get more specific for each one. All right, going back to the site plan. So first, let's start with the state code. It says that a municipality may adopt a land use ordinance that includes conditional uses and provisions for conditional uses that require compliance with objective standards set forth in the applicable ordinance. A land use authority shall approve a conditional use if reasonable conditions are proposed or can be imposed to mitigate the reasonably anticipated detrimental effects of the proposed use in accordance with applicable standards. So it says that they have to mitigate, not eliminate. It does not require elimination of the detrimental effects. It's limiting. The city planning and legal, this is just a note that the city planning and legal staff are in the process of revising the city code to bring it into compliance with recent changes from the state legislature. When state law and city code conflict, state law prevails because of the correlating supremacy clause in the Utah State Constitution. All right, we have a whole list of standards that we look at when we review a conditional use permit. Some of these we've already talked about in the commercial development, like size, location of the site, design, architectural detailing, trash storage areas. So I'm not going to go over that again. Just keep it in consideration as you think about the conditional uses. Scott will cover traffic considerations. He'll go over the traffic study and those implications. He will talk about the utility capacity and the emergency vehicle access. And I'm going to be covering the fencing, screening, landscaping to separate the uses from adjoining uses, noise, and then the potential adverse effects, like on the neighboring property owners, including adverse effects to property values and the right to use and enjoy their property. Okay. So I've identified the following reasonably anticipated detrimental effects of the proposed conditional uses to the adjoining residential properties. And I believe there's only one that's adjoining. Disruption of privacy, additional noise, outdoor lighting, additional traffic, decreased property value, and decreased enjoyment of property. These detrimental effects will be reviewed in relation to review standards, to the review standards that I already went over. The measures proposed by the applicant and conditions proposed by the city to mitigate these effects are examined in the sections below. The city engineer will review the traffic impact study in this report. The proposed development is on a corner of the main intersection at the heart of Francis City. There are several residential properties across the street from the proposed development on Spring Hollow Road and State Road 35. Additional noise and outdoor lighting from the project are not anticipated to significantly impact the residents living across State Road 35 because of the ambient levels of light and noise that already exist in the area from traffic. And I'll go over the noise impact study we did in a minute. The residents that live across the street from the proposed development on Spring Hollow Road will be minimally impacted by noise and outdoor lighting because the main parking and unloading areas will be behind the building. Very minimal wall lighting is planned on the front of the buildings. The on-street parking is about 100 feet from the residences. It is anticipated that noise impacts will be lessened by this distance by about 10 decibels and will be in compliance with code. Therefore, the standards will be viewed in relation to their impact on the adjoining existing residents. So as far as the buffers, which is fencing, screening, landscaping, we have those to provide a quality separation between incompatible commercial uses and to provide physical and visual protection between commercial and residential uses. Fences or walls will be viewed for their effectiveness in screening a view and for their color and texture in relationship to building materials. Special consideration shall be made to protect the privacy of residents, and requirements shall be at the discretion of the Planning Commission and City Council. As a minimum, the negative effects of noise and artificial lighting shall be minimized to protect existing residents. So the applicant on their site plan has proposed along this is the boundary that has the adjoining residential neighbor. And then this boundary here is with the city. They're proposing on those boundaries a 6-foot vinyl fencing and an earth tone along anyway, I went through that already. Feather red grass is planned as a landscaping buffer along the fence on this eastern side here. An oak tree landscaping buffer is planned along the boundary with the city property here. The fencing plan will help mitigate the detrimental effect of disruption of privacy, additional noise, and outdoor lighting from the parking lot, building lights, and vehicle lights. Staff proposes increasing the height of the fence to 8 feet to further mitigate disruption of privacy and outdoor lighting effects for the adjoining residential property owner. And then as far as the landscaping buffer, feel that the feather grass may help to further mitigate additional noise. Since they're placed in front of the fence, that will be fairly limited in mitigating lighting and privacy concerns. A tree buffer is planned at the boundary with the city property. Here, it will act as a landscape buffer to help mitigate all of those concerns, but we really don't have a requirement to mitigate any concerns with city property. It's more with adjoining residential. So I propose replacing the feather buffer on the property line adjoining the residential with a 12-foot tall tree buffer to further mitigate noise, lighting, specifically the 12-foot parking lights and privacy concerns. Okay, moving on to signage and lighting. The applicant was fairly vague in their signage plan. They're proposing one monument sign less than 6 feet in height at this corner. They say that they're going to meet the code And we will have to approve that later. It's part of that's another review. This is part of the conditional use. So they're saying they're gonna meet the code. They're gonna have one sign here, a monument sign for the whole development on this corner of Spring Hollow and 35. And then they're gonna allow signs, wall signs for each of the businesses that will meet the code as well. If they need to have, our code allows that if they want to increase those signs or change them, that they can in certain parameters, but it's another conditional use they'd have to come back and get approval for. So at this point, as long as they're following the code, I don't see any factors that we need to mitigate, so. Okay. As far as outdoor lighting, we've already talked about that a bit. They are significantly under, they're about half, just over half of their allowed number of lumens they can have. All the fixtures appear to be full cutoff. They didn't know, like I talked about, that they're going to reduce it after a certain time. We should discuss that with them and find out more about their plan at night, or if they need it for security. They're going to ask for that. Car lights will also be an additional source of light at night. The detrimental effects of outdoor lighting and car lights can be mitigated with an 8-foot privacy fence and a 12-foot tree buffer on the residential property line. Okay, as far as noises, our city code says that between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m., Monday through Saturday, you can have up to 70 decibels. And between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. Monday through Saturday, 55 decibels. Also on Sunday, it gets a little longer, 10 p.m. to 9 a.m. on Sunday, it's 55 decibels. We did a noise disturbance study. It concludes that the detrimental effects of additional noise can be mitigated with a privacy fence and a landscape tree buffer on the adjoining residential property line, restricting delivery hours to the daytime Monday to Saturday, and requiring that mechanical equipment for building 3, the one closest to the residential, be placed as far from the adjacent existing residence as possible and be enclosed. So in the noise disturbance study, we looked at the noise levels right now, and then we looked at some potential noise sources, such as a large diesel truck, 2 people talking really loudly, a truck door slamming, mechanical HVAC equipment. We did see that there could be some where we could go over the code requirements. So that's where those conditions that were proposed came from. It came from the noise study and making sure that we are following the code there, not exceeding the noise limits. Okay. Now I'm getting into the specific conditional uses. We're almost done with this. Hotels are a conditional use. They're operated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The detrimental effects of decreased privacy, additional noise, and lighting caused by the hotel can be mitigated with an 8-foot privacy fence, 12-foot tree buffer. The noise disturbances can be further mitigated by allowing deliveries only between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. The applicant is planning a 4-story hotel. The adjoining residential property will be visible from the upper floors of the hotel, even with a 12-foot tree buffer. The adjoining residential property is more than 550 feet in a straight line from the hotel. The impact of decreased privacy from the hotel will be mitigated by that distance. The restaurant with alcohol service, the process for this is first they have to get local consent from the city council. That happened last week on January 9th. Then it comes to the planning commission and city council as a conditional use. The state also has to approve it. They have a board that looks at all their applications. Again, the same mitigating conditions can be used as we proposed for the hotel. And then for the drive-through restaurants 1 and 2, going back to the restaurant, the proposed hours of operation are from 5:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. The same hours of operation are proposed for the drive-throughs, 5:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. Drive-through restaurant 2 will be one of the closest businesses in the development to the adjoining residential property owner. The detrimental effects of decreased privacy, additional noise, and lighting caused by the drive-through restaurants can be mitigated with an 8-foot privacy fence and a 12-foot tree buffer on the adjoining residential property line. Noise disturbances can be further mitigated by allowing deliveries only between the hours of 7 a.m., 7 p.m., and also requiring that the mechanical equipment be placed as far away as possible from the residential. All right. So my recommendations are next. I feel like I don't want to quite go through those right now. I've mostly already went over them anyway, so we'll come back to that after we do public hearings and discussion. I'll put that page up and we can go through them one by one, and then we'll have to open and close each public hearing separately. We'll go through each item one by one. This is a public hearing. There are 4 public hearings, 1 for each conditional use. They were noticed in accordance with state and local law. A public hearing is not required for the commercial development application, though. Okay, that's it for me. Man, and I'll turn it over to Scott. I know he has some things to cover.
Thank you, Katie. Fire away, sir.
So in regards to, let me go back to the right page. So the applicant did a traffic study to see the impacts that would have on Spring Hollow and Highway 32 and 35. The traffic study came back that there was no additional turn lanes or anything needed as part of this subdivision. That still needs to be reviewed. That still needs to be reviewed by UDOT. As part of our permit, they have to get UDOT approval to get access onto Highway 35. So they will review that also. In respect to the utilities, as part of our master plan, when we did that back in 2018, we projected commercial uses to come in the next 20 years. So we've planned for this to happen so that as far as our utilities, with the new tank, the well, the sewer system, this growth was anticipated as part of the 20-year plan we did. Like I said, they've got to go to UDOT and get their permission to connect onto 32. Water system, in addition to installing fire hydrants and connections and that, they're going to need to turn in additional water shares to meet their uses. I think that's it. And as far as like the fire district, we did consult the fire district back when we increased the height to 45 feet, and they recently bought a new truck that they said they can meet these needs. We will work with them on access and all that through the development. So.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
So we should probably open it up to the developer for his, before we go to the public comment. And then I do have some written comments to address first.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
I mainly am here to hear your guys' questions first and we'll respond.
Okay, if that's how you want to do
Hey,
it, but
We just sent you an email with the hotel plans on, because I really do think it would be helpful if we could get them up.
okay. I'll try to do that while you're talking, Rusty.
Okay. I mean, I just listening to the public tonight, the 45 feet, 45 feet, I mean, it's 5 feet. And I really think it'll help when we see the plans, what we've been able to do. And in the economic reviews that we've sent you, Francis makes almost probably in the first 2 years more than we do. I mean, you guys get 13% and actually you guys just raised the rate again. I wish Brad was here to comment to that. So, to me, the 4 stories, and I was back here in 2018 when the city center was all going through and the purpose and the intent. So as I was designing this and going through everything, I was thinking back to when the city center got approved, right? And to Katie reading, through the deals. And, it's a very expensive space. The city center is very small. We tried to respect everything. We could have raised the commercial residential portion of it higher, but we opted to keep it low. So the only thing that we're really talking about here that's going to be 45 feet is just the hotel. It's a very small piece of the whole project. And even with the architecture of the hotel, with the architecture of the commercial residential, it's going to offset and it complements, we feel like everybody, you know, it complements well. There's a ton of pressure on us as well to create, we're the first ones. And we want to make this very beautiful and very good for the city. And, you know, like from the financial point of it, you know, to not allow the 4-story when you allow the 45 feet, it's just hurting Francis and it's hurting us. You know, I hear a lot of people in here thinks that it's going to be unsuccessful, right? Well, you start limiting things like this, it very well could be unsuccessful. I mean, are we going to continue? Absolutely. But is it going to be, it's going to be a lot harder for us, and it's not going to be nearly as good for Francis, and it's going to be the same impact. So, you know, I just wanted to get that out there. We want to work with Planning Commission. You've seen on the lighting, I mean, we're less than half. That's been a big issue I've heard from the public. We're less than half of what we're allowed. And with the hotel being 24 hours, I just kind of wanted to hear your guys' comments. I mean, I still think that we can, being half of what we're allowed is going to be hard to go 50%, but I think that we can, you know, definitely dimmer down even from that. But, you know, I really feel like as a resident, it's something that I've got to live with, something that I've got to drive by every day. I'm glad we're doing it. You know, we heard the comment in the reasoning for the 2018. This is locally owned. This isn't Best Western. This isn't Hilton. This isn't anything. This is going to be locally owned, locally operated. It's going to be really very valley driven. You know, really want to work with the sponsorships and keep it right here in Camas. We don't want to have to go ask Marriott or Best Western or anybody, hey, can we give the football team $400? Can we, you know, this is all going to be in our control. And we did meet with Marriott. We met with Cobblestone. We've had big meetings with all of them. And the reason why we opted to go self-branded is for the freedom of what we can do. You know, you guys make a recommendation. You guys want to see something, I can change that. If we go with Marriott, Best Western, it's a friggin' nightmare. And so we brought it forward in a way that I think what we've designed is awesome. We're here to hear your input, and but just, you know, 45 feet is going to be 45 feet, and you can see with the way that we put the little overhang. You know, we tried to take away from the boxiness. We dropped the so we actually eliminated 3 rooms to add that architectural feature. So out there to the right, that's an outdoor hot tub, seating area. It's going to be seen from the intersection, right? So as you're coming up, it's not going to look like a box. From the intersection, it's got to look very good. And then the way we tied it in to the restaurant area, it's all covered. Outdoor seating with fire pits. You'll be able to see the fire pits coming into the intersection. So at night, you know, I mean, they'll be ran just during the business hours, but as you come up, it's going to look very appealing from the intersection. That's what we were really, really focusing on. I don't think I need to go over the shared parking agreement. We're working with the city on that, and we will definitely eat the grunt of, we're not here to take advantage of anybody. We're going to make sure it's very good for the city and it works for us. I've worked that way my whole life, I feel like.
I'm just scrolling through. I found them, so.
What's that?
I found the architectural, so.
Okay, yeah, this really helps. I hope this helps everybody see that it's not just a box. There's been a lot of thought that's went into this hotel. So, you know, and that was the other problem we had with Cobblestone. The architectural design, they just were not going to let us play with it. It was either their way or the highway. And that's why we opted out. You know, we've had a very, very expensive
So I think-
feasibility study done, which that's what you guys received was the economic portion of that.
Not from that perspective. I think you can see all.
But the whole thing together is what makes the project viable. The restaurant, the hotel, we're really working hard. I can't say exactly who's coming into the commercial, but we've got a lot of the commercial already, some LOIs coming in. Very good for Francis. It's going to complement the hotel, restaurant very well, more 9 to 5, you know, so when the hotel restaurant gets busy, the 9 to 5ers are gone. That's what we're really targeting to alleviate any kind of parking issues. You know, and then just one thing, I've heard a couple of comments that the public's spoken. What's the population now of Francis?
Almost 1,800.
Okay, I would like the planning commission to, you know, we do have the public here and I respect their opinion and I'm glad they're here. But it is also a very small fraction of our population. And I just wanted to point that out and so everybody understood. I'm here to listen to these people as well. But not all of the people have spoken. The people that are here have, but I think from what I've been talking to people about, and you know I'm the one that's doing it, but I've heard great things. I haven't just heard negative. So, and now I'll leave it up to you guys. What do you got for me?
Microphones if you have questions.
One question, Rusty. Which architectural rendering gives the best perspective from the four-way stop?
It's really quite hard, Katie. This is looking at it from inside the parking lot. Roll through it and I'll we were trying to create.
Be the opposite.
And that is, yes, so that would be coming into the building. So the building that's connected to it is part of the restaurant. So you've got kind of an open balcony section over part of the restaurant. And then so it's covered up and down. And so this is kind of what you're going to be looking at as you come into the intersection. And so that's all going to be glass around the hot tub area with the seating. And it's not just going to be a hot tub. It's just kind of outdoor use. We're in the mountains. Everybody loves outdoor hot tubs in the wintertime. And I think the architectural with the glass and everything is really going to tie it all in. And then when it ties onto the commercial, then you have all the big windows out there on the 45, which is going to tie in.
So just to be clear, you can see the cursor up there? Can you
Yes.
see the little triangle cursor?
Yep, that's headed east.
That's headed east.
Yes.
Yes, south is how I took that. That'd be
Yeah.
Spring Hollow.
Yeah, yes.
Towards,
Yes, south, excuse me. Yes, this is the
That's
north end, this is the
south.
south end. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's going south on Spring Hollow.
so the new city hall where we're at here is like right here.
Right.
City Hall, okay, that's what I
Yeah.
wanted to understand. So the intersection then, we were talking about the four-way,
Yes.
is to the left of this and off the screen.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
And in the site plan, you can kind of see where we've got like the outdoor fire pits and everything that kind of ties into this.
So just out of curiosity, oh, sorry.
I was just gonna ask, are we opening it up for public comment and then do
Uh,
we wanna comment or do we wanna?
I'm giving everyone an opportunity to ask Rusty clarifying questions. And then I think we should open it up to public comment, and I think we should comment. And I think we need to make a motion on like 17 things.
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I'd like
Not
to, I'd like to add some expedience so we're not all here till 10 o'clock tonight. So if you have specific questions for Rusty, my only question, Rusty, since I'm talking, the paint stuff in the plans in our packet looks different. Is this what you're going, this?
This is
final?
the latest and greatest. And we, yeah, so this
Okay.
should be, this is the latest and greatest.
It's beautiful. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll just comment that I think that it's challenging to imagine this project without the perspective of standing square in the intersection of the four-way and looking down Spring Hollow and 35 simultaneously. I'm having a tough time imagining this, right? So as we move forward and try to consider it, especially because at least what I'm seeing here, I don't see a lot of the tree discussion, shrubbery, all that we talked about before, which I know is going to be something that, you know, whether it's now or later is going to be of great interest. So I'll just share that. It's hard for me to imagine how this looks when all I can see is.
And
just the
we'll
Spring
get
Hollow
that to
side.
you after the comments. We'll address everything, get you kind of an updated, and we'll get that front on view from the intersection.
Thank you.
I'll save my comments for later after public hearing. I just have one question, actually, for Katie. We don't have a TIF or an RDA, right?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so a couple quick questions. So why are you making the hot tub visible? I've gone past a lot of hot tubs at hotels. That's the last thing I want to see.
Actually, the research that we've done and a lot of your, because I would call this like from mid to upper, you know, this isn't, you know, this isn't the highest end, but the outdoor hot tubs and the outdoor seating area, it's a combination of both, right? It's just a nice place to go. And it's actually part of the best views. And I think it's going to be a really architectural that's going to break the box up. And which is going to just kind of help from the intersection. So it was all kind of, you know, for the use, for the architectural, for the residents that stay there. There's actually two hot tubs. There's one up and outdoors, and then there's one down in the lower that's indoors. So you kind of have your choice. But most, you know, very successful ones up here all have outdoor hot tubs. Everybody likes to go sit out in the snow and look at the stars. So.
And so then the other question I had, so you have no partner to run this right now?
We have what?
Do you have no partner to run this? No, you're not.
No, we're self-branded. We actually have a local gal here. Her name's Mindy Turner. She lives in Francis. This is what she's done her whole life. Bellagio, Dolly World. It's just all she's ever done is she's currently running the Zermatt, you know, trying to turn that around. So she's a partner and a strong ally. And with her, we feel very confident that we can do this self-branded. And then I think from a city standpoint or from a valley standpoint in general, it's going to be a lot better for everybody, for us to be not having to ask for permission for everything that we do. And locally owned, everybody that's involved in this has got just as much as desire. They don't want to live with something that's bad either, right? 75% of everybody that's in here lives in Francis or Camas. And so we're not bringing any big outside money partners in. It's all local, from very small amounts to very large amounts, but locally owned.
Sorry, I said I didn't have any more questions. I do. Are the residential spaces that you've got shown in your plans, are those going to be rented or for sale units?
Rented.
Rented?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Will they be at market rate, or have you given any thought to like workforce housing?
Well, there's a couple of things that's going into it. I think I'm going to I'm encouraging our residential or our commercial. And so I think our commercial is going to have the first opportunity at them for employees of their own. And we'll work with them. You know, if they take obviously a commercial space and they need some rental spaces, we'll work with them on that to get that. We're open right now to work with the hospitals with nursing. We've reached out to a few people. This project realistically is not going to be, if we got started if we do get started in March, I mean, realistically, this isn't opening till the spring of 2026. So it's kind of hard to reach that far out ahead, but we have put some fillers out there. But primarily the commercial will get first shot, and then what's left, then we'll decide what to do. So that's kind of where we're at.
Thank you.
Okay, Rusty, thank you.
I have some questions.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just waiting for my turn. It's
It's
all good. Do
Okay.
you mind showing the drive-through parking lot picture?
Sure.
So I'm assuming you got drive-through because you're thinking maybe fast food or Starbucks or something like that?
We're working with a couple of different ones right now, like maybe a Papa John's, a few things that I've actually reached out. I've reached out to every one of my friends, everybody, what does everybody want? And that's who we're reaching out to.
So with Wolf Creek Pass closed a good portion of the year, I'm thinking, because I was thinking about this last night, like what would be something, because I'd like to see us succeed, right? Like we want the money, right? So I was thinking maybe, just maybe, if we got lucky, an In-N-Out burger could come in.
I second that
People would be
motion.
willing to drive from
Make it happen.
Heber or Park City to do In-N-Out.
Absolutely.
But as you know, hopefully you know, there's a long line of cars that are going to be waiting in that window.
Yeah.
And they're going to be going right through your parking lot.
Yeah, well, so we got to be very selective in what we do there. Again, so everybody's clear. Like we're not only just owning the hotel. This is all owned by the same partners. Okay, so we're not selling individual units. It's not. So we're owning the hotel. We're owning all the commercial. So we'll be very selective on what we bring in. Actually, though, we've actually got a lot. When you start taking the dimensions, we're only allowing one drive-through. Okay, so you drive in to one side, you come up to the window.
Can you be more specific? Like what side do you see people coming in
Well,
for that?
I can't really point at it right there. Katie, will you just come in on this bottom?
So the middle
You
portion,
can see the arrows.
It has to be the middle portion because there's
You wanna do
landscaping on either side of the building.
Yeah, so
well, no, it looks like there's a driveway that's on the east side of the commercial.
You're
Is that
good.
not a
I
driveway?
gotta turn around like this. I'm running it backwards.
Okay.
You just-
I don't know. I don't know
So
what
you
you're
drive
pointing
in on this side,
Yeah.
right, and drive all the way around to the window. So the window's on the opposite side. The building
through
on the
here.
right will not be a drive-through. Just so everybody's clear. There's only two
Okay.
drive-throughs, one on this side, one on that side. So
So you only have one drive-through window
per building, we have two buildings.
and they're both on the left side of the building.
Both on the north side, right?
Would be the west side.
Wow.
Yeah, west
So
side.
This side here and
Yep.
then this side here.
Yep,
I just
correct.
see a bottleneck. I
There's
see a really bad
landscaping,
bottleneck with the two together
You
like
know,
that.
I took a lot, if you go down to Heber, like Panda Express, Carl's
I really
Jr.,
like
it's
shrubs. It
very,
looks like
very similar design to what they have. And I go through Panda Express, Carl's Jr. all the time. It's very similar. We've actually got more,
So you're not worried about congestion in the parking at all?
not at all, especially for the businesses that we've got going in on the side. We kind of already know one of the businesses, and so
And you're confident you're going to find employees for all this?
I actually, you would be surprised on, again, being locally owned, there's a lot of the partners themselves that's looking into, doing different things. And so, no, I'm not worried.
Okay. I am not trying to be rude,
No,
okay?
look,
I just want to make one comment about the aesthetics.
Okay,
When I was the UPS driver, I delivered to an assisted living home and it looks just like that.
pretty good looking then, huh?
I really thought you had gotten the plans from that facility. It was in Sugar House off of 21st South and 11th East. It looks exactly like that building with the exception of the black, like,
Yeah.
trim that you
And it's
have.
so hard to see them in renderings. I've got Katie some pictures of one. It's in Fort Worth, Texas is the one that we really kind of found that we liked. And when you're actually standing there looking at it, renderings are so hard. And as we get farther down the process, the renderings will get more and more detailed, right? But they're very, very expensive. But Katie, if you could share like that Fort Worth,
I don't have it on in here right now.
right, but if you could share it with them.
Sure.
I'll have Katie email that to you.
Okay.
So you can see the actual hotel.
That it's
kind
not
of
just a
like the
face with
Right.
windows.
With that big covered roof, it's hard to see the depth of that roof that's coming out over the top of it in these renderings. But in the pictures, like we, had sent Katie and, just trying to get some ideas, you can really see the depth of that.
Okay, that was all I had.
Okay.
I know. All right.
I'm gonna, just for everybody's sake, there's a side benefit. The question raised is based off your buildings on both sides. As you look at the plans, just as we're looking, and I'll use left to right to make it easier. There's plans. So they're curious, is the drive-through on the top portion of that?
No, I'm just gonna point.
Yeah, you're good. Just
Come
reach
on
up and
over.
point.
Yeah, so they're right here and right here. So you.
The issue is that in the we're looking at the landscape plan and those are plants that are in your way.
Where do you get?
No, these are just bubbles. That's just to go to your notes that show you what's gonna be planted there.
Okay,
No,
so,
that's a tree on the key.
so
a tree.
that's,
Oh, yeah.
we match it up with this.
Yeah, these are just notes. That's just a key to go back to see what is gonna be planted there.
Yeah.
But
So
it looks
then-
like,
So then what that looks like to me, Katie, will you scroll back up?
yeah.
You're looking down at it from a bird's eye view. Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. So then what that looks like to me is, there's plants right here, there's plants right here, there's plants right here, there's plants right here, right?
No, they got moved out for parking.
No,
No,
they'll
those
stay.
trees got moved out for parking. These plants, so essentially, all you have to order food and to get the food is just at the top of the building, right there.
That's right next to
Right.
State Road 35.
Yeah, no, it's just like any
Yeah.
other drive-through that you've been through. There's just a little deal you can pull up to.
It's like right here, between the trees.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, just like anything, there'll be a little thing that's
Okay.
in the landscape you pull up.
All right.
I want
Okay,
to choose
okay,
one.
okay.
That solves that question.
Thank
Okay, guys, we need to pick the speed up or we're gonna be here all night.
My bad.
Katie,
Okay.
what do you got?
All right, so we're gonna open the public hearing. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, we're gonna open the public hearing. I'd like to limit the public hearing to new things that we haven't heard and quickly and efficiently as
Okay,
possible.
but I'm
on
gonna
all
read
of
mine
this.
first, right?
Yeah, Katie has to go first. Oh, you're good. You can
Okay.
stand there.
All right. Oh my goodness.
How long is it?
Sorry, I had them here. It's a lot to keep track of today. Okay, here we go. This is from Hugh and Marilyn Douglas regarding the hotel. We feel it would be over the top ridiculous to have a hotel placed on the corner of SR 35 and Spring Hollow. There is already a hotel being planned a mile down the road on SR 32. We don't need one hotel, let alone two hotels in this rural and small community. Jack Prescott said, this is concerning the whole development. I'll just read it for the hotel portion. So all the comments I'm reading now go to the hotel CUP. Okay, so we'll just open that one up just for the hotel. But Jack's was kind of for everybody, but I'll read it now. He said that he wants to make sure that there's ADA access and elevators for the whole facility.
It's required by
Okay.
state law.
Right. Okay. Before I keep reading, I will just remind everyone too that this is the conditional use. So we're really looking at conditions. What we've proposed already, we'd love some feedback on those. Okay.
Yep.
All right. This is from Riley Rockhill. A hotel in a small town may seem like an economic boon at first glance, but in reality, it could be the catalyst that slowly erodes the very essence of what makes that town special. Small towns are built on a foundation of close-knit communities, local businesses, and a sense of place that has taken generations to cultivate. The introduction of a hotel, especially one aimed at mass tourism or transient guests, has the potential to disrupt and degrade all of these vital aspects. He goes through several points. I'm going to, because I think it will take more than 2 minutes, I'm just going to read the first of each set paragraph. First, the character of the town itself is at risk. Small towns are often defined by their unique culture, traditions, and values. Concerns about catering to visitors rather than residents. Second, community displacement is an inevitable consequence. A hotel might cater to a transient crowd, but the long-term residents will feel its impact. Local housing could become less affordable as hotels attract investors who seek to capitalize on the influx of visitors. Lastly, increased crime and social unrest often accompany the introduction of mass tourism. Hotels attract an influx of outsiders, many of whom are merely passing through. This can lead to an uptick in petty crimes. In essence, a hotel in a small town isn't just a building, it's a disruptive force. It threatens to erode local business, displace longtime residents, alter the town's character, and potentially lead to rising crime and social strain. Small towns thrive on the connections between people and the strength of their traditions. A hotel introduces the cold and personal forces of commercialism that inevitably undermine those qualities. What may seem like a boost to the economy in the short term could, in the long run, be the very thing that ruins everything that makes a small town worth preserving. All right, this is from Wendy Hedman. Again, it's going to take me longer than 2 minutes, so I'm going to summarize. Okay, thank you for the opportunity to provide comment on the recent proposals for large hotels in the Francis area. I would like to share that I'm opposed to this as a resident in the valley. I have commented before on my opposition to dense housing, but have not commented with reasonable, sustainable, and small town reflected businesses being built. I start this email off by sharing that because I want it to be known that I am not opposed to growth, I am opposed to irresponsible and quick decisions made regarding growth that don't consider infrastructure or uniqueness of this valley. Listen to the people of this valley and what they desire. She's opposed to any environment with alcohol near a city park, school bus stop, or public property. She's opposed to public parking lots being used for private use, opposed to the lighting that comes with monstrous buildings, opposed to the amount of water these hotels will be using, as well as escalated crime risk. She's concerned that hotels will turn into J1 housing and that Park City will bus their workers to us. The jobs are going to be $17 to $20 per hour, but it's very expensive to live here. They have to make about $70,000 a year to afford a very small apartment. She feels like it would be out of place. She doesn't understand needing tax revenue, or she does. I support and understanding needing tax revenue. Tax revenue doesn't support a building or business that doesn't support the tranquility of this area. She supports small shops and restaurants. She's okay to travel to do shopping. Thank you for allowing me to comment. She doesn't want parking lots covering all the beautiful ground we have. Okay. This is from Brent Simmons. Hi, my name is Brent Simmons. I live in Wild Willow. I've lived in Francis my whole life, 65 years. I have a comment to the proposed hotel. Why do we need a hotel? There's hotels in driving distance here, from here, 15 to 20 minutes. There's one in Heber, Park City. There's just a new one built across from the Jordanelle Dam. There's hotel at the top of 248 in the corner of Browns Canyon. People who are coming to the Camas Valley, they're going camping, fishing, hiking, hunting, riding their side-by-sides, recreating in the backcountry. They're wanting to camp. They're not going to come back from the mountains to go to a hotel for the night. In the winter, we get snowmobilers traveling through. Water concerns, and that Francis has always had a water shortage. Everyone was fighting for water. As you know, in the past, we've had a serious drought. Everyone was placed on water rations. What makes you think there's enough water to go around for this hotel? We fight for water. But yet you people continue to approve subdivisions, homes to be built. What's wrong with this picture? I'm totally against this hotel idea. Francis is not set up for hotel. What about parking? There's not sufficient space for parking. What are you going to do for parking for the Labor Day event weekend? The traffic on the roads, especially in the summer, and this hotel is a very bad idea. All right, this last one is from from Brad Phillips. This is another long one, so I'll summarize it. He says, this is a bright future for our town. The benefits of the new hotel and business park. As our town continues to grow and evolve, a new opportunity is on the horizon that promises to bring exciting changes. The development of a hotel and business park. This project isn't just about new buildings, it's about creating a thriving, sustainable future for our community. He lists 4 reasons why he thinks it's a good idea: economic growth and local investment. One of the most significant benefits of the hotel and business park development is the boost it will provide to our local economy. It will attract businesses and visitors from outside the area. Will drive investment. We can expect a ripple effect as businesses start coming here. Second reason was a job creation for our residents. We'll create numerous job opportunities for residents of our town, construction workers, contractors, and then to employment opportunities. We'll open new career paths and opportunities for people that live here. Improved infrastructure and connectivity is the third reason. A modern hotel and business park won't just bring new jobs and businesses, it will also improve the infrastructure of our town. To support the new development, the project will likely include upgrades to roads, utilities, and public transportation options, making it easier for both residents and visitors to navigate the area. And then the fourth reason, stronger community development. A hotel and business park can help foster a sense of community by bringing new people and businesses into the fold. Whether it's visitors staying at the hotel, business owners in the park, or residents enjoying the improved local amenities, this project will bring diverse groups of people together. In conclusion, embracing the future. The development of Hotel and Business Park represents a bright future for our town, a future that brings economic growth, job opportunities, improved infrastructure, and a stronger sense of community. While any development comes with its challenges, the long-term benefits are clear, a vibrant, thriving town that provides opportunities for current and future generations. Let's embrace this opportunity with open arms and work together to ensure that our town remains a place where businesses grow, families thrive, and our community continues to flourish. Okay, that's it for the hotel conditional use permit for the written comments. Okay. So I think you can open it to the public now.
I'll open it up to public comment, limited to 2 minutes. I'd like to stick with the hotel conditional use permit. I beg you. All right, fire away, bud. Oh, name and address.
Okay. Brian Marsing, 592 Spruce Way in Francis. My background's in finance, economics, and retail for the last 20 years. I understand retail and hotel space as good as anybody. I manage and own a company that we oversee about 3,000 locations across the U.S. for our dealerships and retail spaces. And so, of course, there's not going to be any traffic issues of what was found because nobody's going to be coming to this. We have 1,800 population. I was glad that was exposed. That's not enough people for this type of space. We already have retail space. They aren't the first ones. We already have retail space being built with another hotel proposed, which I'm against any hotel. But how many retail spaces is this?
I think there were 9.
9. So 8's being built, 9 more. We're looking for 17 retail spaces in one town of 1,800 people. There's no chance in hell that any of those will succeed outside at least half of them. It's a complete money grab. When was the last time we saw a line out the door in Camas for even at Food Town, even at the drugstore, even at Summit Inn? All of these retail spaces that have been around for decades are suffering and struggling. High Mountain Drug alone their hours are being cut. My friend owns that business. Yes, this is a local thing. Yes, they're going to find local employees. But what's going to happen is all of these retail spaces and hotel, they're going to cannibalize each other. They're going to be competing against jobs, and no one's going to be able to sustain it. Take a look at Heber. Go down there in Walmart. Those retail spaces, it's dead. Retail across the board is down. It's funny they mentioned Papa John's. They're closing hundreds of locations because it's not a viable business in certain locations, especially in small towns. So here's what's going to happen. We have the residential space that went bankrupt. That's sitting there, been there for the last, I don't know how many years.
Hey, Brian, wrap it up.
Thank you. So we're going to have multiple, if this goes through on both sides, we're going to have multiple bankrupt businesses.
Thanks, Brian.
James DeGray again, 1744 South McNeil Circle. The biggest thing that I would like to point to is the city code. Give me just a moment. Allow me to pull up this reference. Perhaps this is one of the ones affected by the state alterations and mandates, at which point perhaps that alters my stance. However, as of now, City Code, Section 18.45.150, which is the buffers, fences, and walls section, part of which you've discussed this evening already, actually, makes the statement, facilities that require late-night customers and activities shall be located away from residential areas to reasonably prevent disruption of privacy. So this is over and above any conditional use questions around privacy. Already the statement that there's no privacy concerns behind the hotel for people who live across the street, I'm concerned that that was the result of the city's review, and I question the validity of that statement. People standing 3 stories tall looking down at my house raises in me questions of privacy on my property and even in my home. But specifically, I just want to point out that it says these facilities shall be located away from residential areas. Shall in the law is an extremely powerful word. I am a practicing attorney I'm licensed with the state of Utah in good standing, all that fun. That word is really strong. It means you have to. There's not a lot of ways around it. So specifically, shall be located away from residential areas. Yet in this particular instance, we are discussing a hotel, a late night customer and activity type of facility that is physically connected to residential areas, that shares a parking lot with those residents. And so as a general rule, even before getting to the question of conditional use, I do not see how this plan, including the hotel, how the hotel fit to what's already approved, can even be viable under city code. Thank you.
Got it. Thanks. Hey, everybody. In the interest of time, let's hold clapping. We can all clap at the end if we want. And I'm going to start saying 20 seconds over the top of you guys. Cool? All right,
Yep.
fire away.
David Sutherland, 1162 Village Drive. We just want to address the conditional use permit and the mitigation of the detrimental impacts proposed by this project. Unlike what's being asked for here, there is no mitigation of the impacts. There's actually require to make the parking work, the full 25% reciprocal reduction in parking, as well as a lease for this entire parking lot that's full tonight. There's residents that are supposed to be living in the second and third stories above that that retail space. Where are they going to park? Where are their guests going to park? If you're going to try to go to those restaurants, what's going to happen there? So the developer is not only asking to not mitigate those, but actually ask more of the city for those detrimental impacts. And then secondly, the argument was brought up that this might not be viable if we don't fudge those conditional uses and let things slide. Well, we've had multiple commercial developers come through the city with applications over the last 6 months. Obviously, there's plenty of interest. Let's just wait for a developer that can do it right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Shelley Bingham, 381 Wild Willow Drive.
Thank you.
So I had questions for the developer.
This
Is
is
that
a
all right?
question session.
We doing that after?
Can't question the developer. Address us, please.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, does
fire away.
anyone know how many people are going to be housed in that hotel? Like how many people that's going to bring in?
Katie, how many doors does the hotel have? Do you know?
How many doors?
Yeah.
Oh, how many rooms? Up to 70.
70 rooms, but I'd like to refrain from Q&A and 67. Refrain from Q&A and address public comment, please.
You know what? Oh, okay. Well, we have an answer around 67. Okay. So that's the doors, meaning it could be double, could be triple that, depending on the people and the cars that are coming in. So I beg to differ on the traffic report. I don't see how bringing that many people in is not going to impact traffic or the needs for our traffic, the needs for more infrastructure that is not being allowed here. Okay, that's basically what I wanted to say and to point out. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Porter Spencer, 705 Oak Lane. I wanted to address the parking situation. I don't really see very much trailer parking. I don't know where the people with the big long snowmobile trailers are going to park. I don't know if the city requires any conditional parking or any required trailer spots for something of this magnitude. I also wanted to make a note. I talked to Oakley City Planner. Their height requirement is 32 feet and Camus's is 35. I know that's not on the conditional use, but it should be something that should be thought about. And I wanted to see if there is an air quality study about the impacts from the hotel and the restaurants that's been done. Does anyone know?
No, not required.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jeff Faulkner. I live at 915 Village Drive in Francis. My two concerns, I echo Porter. I'm like a wizard driving a trailer, and I don't see anyone being able to get a trailer in and out of there reasonably, especially if it were busy. And I'm afraid that'll push them onto the road and create a further traffic hazard as well as parking violations, which leads me to my next point. I submitted a grant request to the city of Francis asking for police contracts, safety plans, interagency operability, things you're familiar of. And I was told After conducting a thorough search, Francis has not identified any documents responsive to your request. This is a lot of people. This is a lot of business. It's a lot of extra hours. And I don't think we have a public safety plan that makes me as a father feel safe so I can send my kids to a park, send them to the rodeo, whatever we need to do. So thank you.
Doug Coe, 91 East State Road 35. There's a few things I wanted to bring up. I do also challenge the traffic impact on 2200 SR 35. Also, the state's use, I don't know if the state's approved the access on there. I know they're pretty sticky on that. And then also the fact that there's irrigation that comes off of the fields up above that comes down through this property that's adjacent to the residential as well and floods that quite often. I don't know if anyone's looked at that.
It's
If
included in the
It's
packet.
been mitigated, okay. But that also flows down onto my property as well. So I just want to bring that up. And then also the fact that this is turning, as you're coming into these two drive-through, you're putting headlights onto 35, right? On both of those. I don't know if that's any kind of a traffic hazard, but I just wanted to point that out as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, Bob Wheaton again, Highway 35. And I already thanked everybody for doing what you're doing because I think it's incredible. I truly do. And I think I'm going to preach to the choir here a little bit. But, excuse me, the decisions and the recommendations that you folks make tonight and ongoing, those are truly at least 50-year decisions. So even though it only happens in one evening or maybe an extended period of time, couple months or whatever, those are 50-year decisions. And that's an incredible responsibility. So I'd like to ask you to keep that in mind. To the project specifically, in an effort like this with a city center, typically there's an anchor building, an iconic building. And at least in my opinion, the hotel has an outstanding opportunity to be that iconic building, especially on this parcel. So that as people and residents drive by, they go, oh, that's the city center. Or for any of us that live here, it's like, yeah, that's the city center. That's a building that we can all be proud of. I hadn't thought about an assisted living facility, but to me, when I look at the building as proposed, it reminds me more of a Hotel 6 than something that we can all be proud of. When Katie read, I think it was 7 ideals or guidelines or whatever for this property.
20 seconds.
I know one thing was pedestrian friendly. I guess I'm challenged to see that here. And then a reminder about consistency in recommendations. Building as proposed is 4 stories, already forwarding a negative recommendation on the 4-story. I think I'm under. Just
You're good.
Thank you.
You're good.
Don Loftuskin. So this actually was what I was curious about. And so is it limited to 11 o'clock at night? Everything shuts down. The hotel's going to operate 24 hours. You can check in the hotel anytime. But the bar and restaurant type stuff shuts down at 11, or is it a 2 a.m. bar that shuts down?
That's the proposal, is the hours would be shut down at 11.
11.
Okay. Okay, and I actually think, like Rusty, you should put an assisted living center in. It's like $6K a month. That's $370,000, and they'll be perfect neighbors for everybody. So I think you should think about that. That sounds like a better business move, according to this guy who knows what he's talking about. And so I'm not telling anybody how to spend their money, but that sounds like a great idea. Dude. You should, as a backup plan, we should have some kind of contingency here that there's something else that we can do with it. But like I said, I just was more curious about the bar restaurant type thing and how that was going to function. I wish you all the luck. I respect the courage. Everybody can sit here and say what you want. Put $25 million on the table and go gamble with that and see how well it works out. I respect the courage to go and do something. I would just hope that picture we saw with all the stone is what it actually looks like, not a wainscot. Like make it awesome, and we'll all support it. You're going to need our support for all these businesses to succeed. So you're gonna want everybody to have your back, so build something we'll be proud of, dude. I respect the courage to go put that much money out. So you guys,
I think you should be our closer every time. Is there anybody else? Hop on up. Oh, I gotta get my timer back out.
Dean Prescott, I live on State Road 35, down by the storage units. Be real careful with your lighting and your sound walls. I have to live with it every day and every night. It's not what you think. So I think the hotel's too close to the road. If anything, it ought to be flipped to that corner, be in the back, have the parking in the front. If you're gonna have to widen the road one day or something's gonna have to happen. But I think need to go back to the starting and rethink about some things. And I'm opposed to it. I'm not gonna say anything negative, but I just think it needs to be replanned a little bit better than what you got going here. So,
All right. Thank you, sir. If
All
there's
right.
anybody else, please line up.
Devin Earl, 1822 South Foothill Drive. When I look at this, I just have some concerns. I know some of them have been hit on, so I'll be quick, but traffic flow through the site, as we know, a lot of people are recreating up, especially up Highway 35, coming in and out, pulling trailers. The way the site's set up, if you're coming down 35 and pull in with the trailer because you don't have good visible sight of what you're pulling into, there's some very hard corners to make in there. I see radii less than, probably 6 feet, trying to make that pull in a trailer, especially a longer trailer. There's going to be some hard corners or some cars clipped in there. See access with the dumpster orientation. Waste management or public services usually require at least 60 feet straight onto the dumpster. That one in the east corner isn't going to work. Snow storage. Very little snow storage. On a year like this, they might be okay, but 2 years ago, they'd be screwed. I mean, I know they can haul snow off, but there's other implications with that. I know they're not to the point yet that they have to have all their stormwater stuff fully hammered out, but I know they've got an irrigation ditch that runs through it. There's a ditch on the north side of the site. Plus, that's a lot of hardscape that they're going to have to store stormwater with shallow groundwater. I know both hotel site or proposed hotel sites that can be a real struggle for them. So I just see a lot of things that I don't know if they've been thought through very well yet, or I feel like they're trying to fit too high of density that requires too much parking that they can't adequately fit all the features they need for this type of development. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Okay. With that, I'll close public comment of our second of 5 tonight, and we'll continue to move along.
Do you want to open up the next one?
Do we want to do
Restaurant.
all these all together?
Yeah, let's just go through the public hearings and then we'll discuss and then
You got 55 minutes till you lose me.
it's fine. Okay, so go ahead and open up conditional use on the restaurant that serves alcohol.
Okay, I'd like to open it up for public comment on conditional use to serve alcohol.
I have one comment to read.
Go
and then-
for it.
Okay, so this is again from Hugh and Marilyn Douglas. As far as any restaurants in our fast food drive-through that might work in the area, but a big no to adding any apartments or other dwellings. Francis already has several housing developments going up as it is. We should be concerned about having enough water, light pollution, overcrowding of his existing residents, increased traffic, etc. Many people moved here for the country environment, not to become a mini Heber or Park City. We understand some of this was promised under different city administrations. Should the current administration city leaders take a stand against these proposals or modify them, we are sure that many of the residents will stand with you and support you. May we have a vote on these issues in the near future? We don't want to ruin an area just to make developers and builders richer and greedier at the expense of those who live here and would like our community to continue to stay rural. That's that one. Okay, I think we're ready for public.
All right, public comment, sir.
Hi, Brad Murdoch, 443 East State Road 35. Everything that I had on my notes has been covered except one thing.
Okay.
Egress and ingress for the fast food or for the conditional use. Okay. Is that the driveway with the two little things going out onto 35? Where's the windows? I didn't get that.
It
That-
looks like they're facing 35.
Okay,
That's the best I can tell.
all right. So, yeah, again, people that I know that live there are gonna constant barrage of headlights turning in left and right out of that ingress egress. The second thing, and this is because I walk so much on 35, with fast food comes packaging. With packaging comes litter. This is something that we need to be aware of. This is Francis. This is where we live. This is arguably one of the prettiest places on earth. And if we're not going to respect that, okay, I don't know. That's the only question that I had that wasn't answered.
Got it. Thank you for your time. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in regards to the town center restaurant and alcohol service? All right, closing public comment, and to that, I'll encourage the applicant to adopt the highway.
Okay. Drive-through 1.
Opening public comment for drive-through number 1. Do we have to like define which one is 1 and which one is 2?
Yeah, this is 1 here.
Okay, 1 will be there, 2 will be there.
Yep.
Any comment? Going once, going twice? Closing public comment on drive-through 1. Opening public comment on drive-through 2. This is legal stuff. You guys should sit through our training sessions. It's a blast. Any comments? Nothing. Closing public comment. With that, I'd like to thank everyone for coming. It takes a certain amount of courage to get up here. I hope you all know that in the interest of making sure that we get through the agendas, if I seem short, that's really all it is. I want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to be heard, and that we can all get home to our wife and families. So with that, thank you, everyone. I encourage you to stick around if you would like to. If you'd like to exit, I will give you 2 minutes to exit quietly. And please don't carry conversations on in the lobby, as it will disrupt. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, so let's go through conditional uses first. Once,
I was going to give them a second so we can all
that's
hear.
fine. I'm just prepping you for where we're gonna start. I have
Oh,
that
yeah.
pulled up.
And everyone, if you can please make sure you assign the attendance roster,
Okay, I'll
another
do that.
state requirement.
There's actually no, and no,
Here, I'll give you mine. Rusty's providing pens. I'm just gonna say we need the commercial because we need to ask Jeremy to buy better seats.
they're coming. They're already ordered. They just didn't make it. That's all right. They're really cool. I want to tell them. Why did they turn up? Yeah, I feel like, oh my God.
Precision of things that just work out. Speed is fine, precision is what you can all have.
Motion, if you guys will, dice or something for who wants to go first, but.
I was gonna go back and forth. It's just easier for me to go down the line. I'm good with it though. I can go back and forth.
Yeah, it's some method.
I think we should assign a number and not make a pop dice. It'll pop.
I think we should bonus points for everyone. Like, seriously.
Oh, shit.
In, other council chambers. Clock timers.
Huh? I bet they are. How many people?
Yeah, so Charlotte's gonna say 2 minutes.
Saint.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, everyone. We're moving along.
Yeah, you can even take.
Katie, I'm assuming we're taking each of these one by one.
Yeah, so let's go through hotel first. Yeah, that would be great, Rusty. Thank you. Go ahead and close that. So first conditional use is on the hotel. We have these conditions proposed, 8-foot privacy fence, where the property shows proposed fencing, plant 12-foot trees as a buffer, deliveries only between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m.
Katie, you're gonna kill me, but really fast. Does anybody have any issues with alcohol? Issues with alcohol?
So this is my recommendation on the hotel.
Okay.
And then you guys are welcome to,
Well, I was thinking to be fast. I think the other three are faster, but do we need to do the hotel first?
not necessarily, we can come back to that if you want.
Okay. I
7
like
a.m. and 7
staff
p.m.
recommendations on alcohol, and I think we should just approve alcohol.
Okay.
If there's a big debate about drive-through, we can wait, but
I
I think most of the
pro- yeah.
conversation is gonna be around the first one.
I propose adding one more condition that came to my mind. I think we should stick with the hours that they proposed and put that as a condition, 5:30 a.m. to 11 p.m.
On the alcohol?
Yeah. So add that as another condition.
I would also propose that we change the privacy fence, because I imagine that's just a chain link fence with little vinyl things in it, to something like a what do you call them, a poured concrete fence, a poured concrete wall, something with stone facing so it looks nice and actually provides. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So do you guys want me to do it, or does somebody else want to try it?
Or anyone else? So we skipped over to the
Okay,
the
so-
restaurant with the alcohol.
So I motion that we recommend or positively recommend approving the conditional use permit for the restaurant with alcohol service with the additional requirements of the additional conditions that the hours of operation are between 5:30 a.m. and 11 a.m.
11 p.m.
11 p.m. It's going to be a really short open bar. 11 p.m. That the privacy fence is replaced with, what are the proper landscaping terms for the kind of thing I'm talking about?
I don't know, we need a cement or some sort of.
With pretty rock facing.
Yeah.
Solid structure. All right.
Still the 8-foot fence.
Yep.
8-foot poured in,
Yeah.
8-foot wall
Yeah,
instead of a
8-foot
fence.
wall with stones, like
Architect-
pretty stone facing, so it looks
cement.
pretty.
Solid concrete,
Decorative
stamped, I don't
Eight
care.
Yeah,
foot
but-
cement decorative wall.
Yes, 8-foot cement decorative wall.
With the trees in front.
Yep.
All right, with 12-foot trees and deliveries between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m.
This
that
is
what your
just,
Oh, I already have hours of
Yes,
operation on
for
there,
alcohol.
sorry.
Do I have a second?
It's
for
on
his-
there,
For his
sorry.
motion of alcohol?
I second.
I have a clarification.
Of course you do.
Sorry. Is this just for the operation of the hotel or is it also for the plan, the site plan?
Okay, so right now we're talking about the restaurant, right?
Yeah. Just the restaurant.
The restaurant,
I
Fine.
skipped the
I
hotel.
approved the restaurant. I
the
second
hours of
restaurant.
operation are on there, just to clarify, I just skipped through it, there's a lot here, so.
I,
We're just changing the fence to an 8-foot decorative concrete wall.
that is our recommendation. We have seconds.
But is that with the site plan or the hotel?
That is with the restaurant. So
That's with the
there
So that's just for
are,
the conditional.
there
use
are a
permit.
bunch of conditional use permits.
Yeah.
I am opting to skip the first one because it's the longest debate and hammer out the other ones fast.
Yeah.
Which is backfiring.
We will go through all the commercial development approvals, like the site plan, all of that in a minute. We're gonna get through these conditional uses first.
Okay, so Rich, you positively recommend with alcohol servers with the conditions of the 5 to 11.
Well, that was actually already included. I just didn't see it. So we don't need to put that in.
So with the
Just the
conditions up
fence.
there, but changing the fence to a pretty concrete wall.
With the staff recommended condition.
You can just
Can-
say a solid 8-foot barrier.
Can we say that meets city code? The only reason I say that is we tried to do that in the past. I recommended a concrete wall. And I think it was around the storage units and the ones down here. And they didn't have to do it because our code didn't say that. That's just.
Well,
It's
that's
a
for a,
conditional use.
we do require concrete walls on certain storage facilities. They're not required on a hotel. This is as a condition, and we can add this condition if it's reasonable to change the fence to the concrete decorative wall.
Yeah.
No, tree's the same.
Trees are the same, so everything's the same, but from what I understand, the fence would be the decorative wall instead of a
Decorative
fence.
hard barrier.
Hard barrier,
Okay. who
not
seconded?
necessarily cement. Whose motion was that?
That was Rich's motion.
Okay.
Who seconded?
I did.
Vote, McKenna.
Do we need to specify how many trees?
So, I don't know.
Are we
No,
doing the
this is-
landscape
this-
tonight?
No, landscape's
Okay.
gonna end up tabled again.
Okay.
This is
okay,
the
okay.
restaurant and
Yes,
alcohol service.
I vote yes.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
The trees were involved. I
I feel
agree.
like this was gorgeous.
You were still outvoted.
Okay, drive through.
Okay, drive-through, it looks like we have the same conditions on drive-through one. Do we just want to change the privacy fence to the hard barrier, decorative wall? Same motion, basically.
Correct.
Okay.
Same people?
so let me ask one quick question here. So, at some point, we're gonna run into an issue with parking that needs to be addressed. If we give the conditional use permits for these other things now, are we
Yeah.
limiting our ability to push back on parking?
No, not necessarily. So how parking will work is when they apply for a business license, they will have to show that they have enough parking.
That's too late, though.
No, not necessarily, because
Isn't the building built?
the building might be there, but the uses can change. So right now, they're projecting certain retail uses. Those could change to an office space that requires less. We don't know exactly how many spaces we need right now. It's estimated that we need that many. We will determine that as the business licenses come in.
Okay.
If they don't have enough parking, their business license will not be approved. So I think it's kind of a first come, first serve, and then they'll have to apply for a reciprocal. And planning commission will decide if they qualify. And then there's the shared parking agreement that has to be worked out. So I don't think these conditional uses, we do look at parking separately as part of the commercial development. I don't see that coming into the conditional use.
Okay.
But didn't you say earlier that he had 170 and he needed 220? Where did those numbers come from? Because you opened the meeting with that information.
Right, right. So this is where it came from, is the site plan. They detail that out here on their site plan, what the parking needs are. So I will scroll into that.
Hey, I want to change my vote to no. Sorry,
Okay, so,
Noted.
thanks. Appreciate it.
okay, so hold on. So here's where they detail out the parking tabulation.
Explain it.
And so that's where it comes from. It is an estimate of what the uses are and then looks at our code, what's required for those uses. But again, we will evaluate that as they come in.
Okay, I'm changing my vote for a no for this reason. I get that we're gonna be evaluating more as they come in, but I think that we should have a better idea of what we're getting before we start approving these things. So like, there's already like a glaring one that we didn't approve, we didn't recommend approval for the 4-foot story building tonight, right? So like already with that, there's a glaring one discrepancy. There's landscaping discrepancy, there's parking discrepancies. There's enough discrepancies between the different plans submitted by the developer, including the renderings between the most recent rendering versus the first rendering, that I would like to see more finalized and more fleshed out before we start approving the conditional use permits.
So it sounds like you might want to table this.
So I would propose that we table the conditional use permits until this plan is more fleshed out. I don't feel good about voting yes tonight.
I second that.
All right. What?
I will provide comments on things I think that could be bettered in the development, and I've got a written list, but yeah, that's where I stand.
Okay, well then we're gonna vote on each one.
Yeah, let's do
Sounds
each
good.
one. So we already have a motion that passed with the restaurant. So let's move on to drive-through one. Do
Okay.
a motion for that and then drive.
So I see this entirely differently because the parking thing has to be attached to something, and that's attached to the conditional use permits that we're approving.
It's more attached to the businesses and the
Right, the
specific.
business, sorry, I said that wrong, the business licenses. So I see the two things as different. At the end of the day, Rusty's a big boy. If he screws up his parking lot count on a multi-million-dollar project, that's on him.
Yeah, for sure, but that's also the cities and our responsibility as the planning commissions to make sure that we're passing and approving well-baked and well-thought-out project, and I don't feel like it's a responsible thing to do at this point with the plans, what they are. Yes, they're just conditional uses, and yes, he's got to get other approvals in order to build it, but where it's at now, I don't feel like it would be a responsible use of my agency as a commissioner to do in behalf of the residents of Francis or in behalf of our current land code.
I agree with McKenna. I mean, we've talked about not efficient parking bleeding out into the street.
It's not well baked enough. We need to see a more ready project.
Can I ask, on the parking for commercial uses, like the Route 32 project we approved a while back, we approved Shells. And so they've got to come in and
Yeah.
get a business license to run it. So we approved the Shells. Like with this, they think it's going to be retail. We try to go high with the parking. So when they come in and actually do something, it either meets the parking code or it doesn't. And so if it doesn't meet the code, they can't do it. So as far as the parking and the commercial uses, when we do buildings like this, like Route 32, we have no idea what's going on down there right now. They're just shells. So these are going to be shells until they're filled, and he can only put businesses in there that meet our parking code.
Yeah.
That meet the parking stalls he has.
Absolutely. And I have more concerns than just the parking. So if you'd like, I can share those comments. I know that we're kind of on a time constraint.
Can I jump in too? Because then, I think another thing, so at the end of the day, like right now, we can't approve a conditional use permit unless it complies with the code. This doesn't. The hotel doesn't. The hotel's a 4-story hotel. But I'm saying, there's no way we can approve the hotel right now. And so in light of the other votes, I motion that we table all the conditional use permits until this is more fully baked.
We have held the public hearings, right? So we're good on that front.
Just to clarify, you want to table this until the commercial development portion is approved, or?
I want to table it until what they're proposing matches the plans that
And the
they're
code.
showing.
Well-
And the code, yeah.
But I guess, how do you do that if you don't go through each line item and state what you're missing?
Well, I'd say one would be coming with a 3-story hotel.
Yeah, I think we need to be very specific about what we expect to see.
Yeah, we can't just say no to everything. You have to go through the line, vote it out, and you can state your reason so that he can take his feedback, so that next time we don't waste our time doing this all over.
Great.
Yeah, so
I'd
I
love
think
to read my comments.
It would be great for you to be specific, yeah.
Sounds good.
So let's stick to each one. Everybody can vote how they need, they can vote what they want.
Okay.
That's fine. But we have to do each line by line. Like, we
Okay.
can't just wrap it all into a bow and say, parking's not approved, so we're not gonna do anything.
Right, you
Yeah.
do have to look at each item individually.
Definitely.
Okay,
Okay.
so we'll get as far as we can get.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on to, can we put the other one up? Moving on to drive-through.
Okay, so did we get a motion on the restaurants? I didn't hear a vote on that.
I thought we did.
That's the one that had the
Except
vote.
McKenna
Yeah.
wanted.
Yeah,
Oh,
and then I
that's
said
right,
I
that's
wanted
right,
to change
sorry.
my vote.
That's right, I do have it, okay.
Positively recommended with alcohol.
Yeah, you did, you got that, sorry. I do have it in my notes. Restaurant,
Okay.
drive-through restaurant one, that's where we're at.
All motion, we approve drive-through restaurant 2 with the same conditions as drive-through restaurant 1.
No.
No.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
No.
Okay, hold on, you guys, you're forgetting your orders.
Yeah.
Now we'll vote.
Aye.
No.
Aye,
No.
No.
okay. Now, you guys want to approve one but not the other?
So let me
Yeah.
just,
I want to go back and change my vote.
so
I
there's
already
no
said that.
approval or denial from the planning commission
I'm
on
sorry, a
conditional uses.
recommendation, sorry.
So we're doing a negative recommendation and we're not tabling, we're doing a negative recommendation.
Well, no, we're saying we're voting no on the positive recommendation. I think, I now motion to table.
Okay, we had a motion for a positive.
Yeah.
And now, okay, I got it now, sorry.
I have a
Thank you.
substitute motion. I'd like to table it.
Yep, I second that.
Okay, then vote.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
I.
No.
Suzanne's not having fun with all the yeses and nos.
This is absolutely one of the hardest meetings I've had to take notes on.
We appreciate you.
We really do.
You should not have.
Okay,
to
so drive-through restaurant 2 has been tabled. Scroll down.
Okay, we want to give specific instructions to the applicant on what we'd like to see when they come back.
I think the number of trees needs to be specified. I think that,
For the barrier, the landscape,
uh-huh.
the buffer. Okay.
I think that there should be more variance in ground cover, not just rock. I would recommend that the developer considers other ground cover other than crushed rock and Kentucky bluegrass to include the consideration of microcover, creeping time.
Is that going to the landscape plan?
This can go to the landscaping plan.
Okay, let's carry that to
Table that?
landscape.
Okay.
I'd like to see mitigation on the headlights going into the homes that are across the street from the drive-through.
Yeah, I think
I
the
mean,
developer.
nobody wants headlights going into their house up until 11 o'clock at night.
Like evergreen that doesn't leave their.
I don't know how you're gonna do that.
I think that the developer should look.
Something that mitigates the headlights going into the houses across the street. And I would like to see something different on the drive-in plan. I just don't see 2 drive-throughs like that working with just a better layout for the drive-through.
I think the developer should look at the existing streets and try to align their entrances with current streets so that the existing houses don't have constant headlights glaring into their houses.
Is there an existing street?
Yeah.
Entrance, that one.
Well, right here, you can see, so there's like a street right there, so there could be an entrance right
But
there.
Kevin, I feel like you're right. I mean, I can't hear you.
Yeah. You want me to read that again? I think the developer should look at the existing streets and try to align their entrances with the current streets so that the existing houses don't have constant headlights glaring into their houses. That can be substituted for driveways. So yeah, I'm on Google Maps right now and I'm looking at some different ways that that could be mitigated, just keeping those other existing residents in mind.
Okay, any other comments regarding drive-through 2?
Drive-through 1?
We
Oh,
approved drive-through 1.
We did.
drive-through
Okay,
2
now we're
is
going
not
to 2.
approved.
Yes, thank you.
That'll be
But
fun.
did we approve drive-through 1 or was that the?
Well,
thought
that
we
was the
tabled
table.
it.
That
I
was the
thought we
table.
tabled
Okay.
That was the successful motion, was the table. Okay,
Okay,
so we're moving to drive-through 2.
so drive-through 2 has been also tabled.
You need a motion
Maybe I'm behind.
I motion to table it
with the same, for the same reasons. that we
for
just
the
looked
same
at.
reasons.
Okay, vote. McKenna?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Hey, just for my own records here, the first vote, was that a 3-2 or a 4-1 for the table? I'm sorry, not the first one.
For the alcohol?
For drive-through 1? Drive-through 1, was that 3 to 2
3-2.
table or 1 to 4?
It was 3-2.
3 to 2, they're both 3 to 2. Okay, I wrote that down wrong, thank you. Okay. All right, are we ready to move on to the hotel, or do you want to go through commercial development first?
Let's try and get the hotel out of the way.
Okay. So here are my recommendations on that. And go ahead.
I mean, I think my comments are the same. We've got a hotel that's not compliant with the code. We can't positively recommend approval of a conditional use permit until it's compliant with the code.
All right, I think we should go slowly because I know exactly how this is going to play out. I'm going to make a positive recommendation with the condition that it meets the city council's code change, whatever that may be,
For the store, the number of stories.
for the hotel
Yeah.
and for the number of stories. That I make a positive recommendation that be approved with the conditions as they're listed and adding the condition that it meets city code as approved by the city council.
So if I could add the comment that we've been talking about the 4th story, but there's also the issue of the 24-hour operation, which hasn't even been addressed in terms of a code change. But that would be required as well in order for this to work. So if there's a way to, like, we shouldn't see it again until that is fixed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the other thing tied to that, and I think this is why I'd say I wouldn't even want to approve it with that, is in my mind, the parking is one of the detrimental effects of this. And we can't even understand how to mitigate or how that might be mitigated until we understand better what the hotel looks like.
Are you specifically talking about trailer parking or just parking in
Yes.
general?
So
Both.
I guess
Both,
let me
okay.
talk about parking for a minute. So in my preference for this, and it seems to be a different consensus than everyone else that I've picked up so far, I would much rather use city parking after hours that isn't utilized than see another parking lot built and more lights and all of that. Like, it's already here. I feel like, it feels like more of a recycling to me, and call it however you want, leasing, subleasing, whatever. And it's common, as someone who traveled for 15 years for work, like, that is very common to park in adjacent parking spaces that are approved. So for me, the parking, while everyone else seems very, or some of the members seem very hung up on it, like, I just don't see it as an issue. It's not an issue for me.
But you know, Mr. Whedon made a comment that this is a 50-year decision, right? And who's not to say that 20 years down the road, signs go up saying city parking only? And now what do you got?
A lawsuit.
That will be part of
Just
the
saying.
shared parking agreement. There will be some kind of timeline on there.
And I think the other thing is, I would agree with that, but as one of the commenters pointed out, the time when we need that parking most is the time when the hotel is going to be the fullest for the rodeo and Frontier Days. And so we're setting up a situation where when our town's the most full, we're going to have a parking shortage, and it's going to be complete chaos, and it's already chaos. You bring in all those rodeo trailers and the horse trailers, and it's already a mess.
You know, I don't know. I wasn't here last year, but the year before I didn't notice it. So
It wasn't a hotel either.
yeah, but the hotel is providing parking for those guests. And I
Sort of,
understand,
kinda, with the
yeah, but like
expectation.
hotels empty out by 9 a.m. and they don't fill back up until 4:30 or 5.
Unless they stay 2 days.
No, I mean, I get
There's
it,
a
but
special
then you don't, like, yeah, then you don't sit there, and then you're talking about, okay, now we're worried about 3 days a week a year for Frontier Days when we open up all kinds of rodeo parking and fields and.
Is the parking part of this motion?
There is a parking part of the commercial development, but
But it's
I-
not a part of the hotel motion.
we're looking at the conditional use for the hotel right now. If you feel like parking is related, I feel like there's been some comment about how it could be, then that's possible. It needs to connect somehow.
Well, and maybe to add in another dimension, I mean, so like we think about this past October, right? All of a sudden, we need all this parking for firefighters. I think it's important that we have the public facility. We're in a rural town. We need to have public facilities that we can use for things like forest fires or, you know, our city events. And I think with this, we are committing to tie down our parking. And I'd say come up, and I think this is just one of those areas of ambiguity that we don't know what this even looks like right now.
Yeah.
And I just don't feel good about approving something. I don't even know what I'm approving.
I mean, these soccer fields get used for.
Yeah, there's
you know, during the
tournaments.
Summer for tournaments, and the baseball field gets used. I mean, it's more than just 3 days a week, a year. You don't want a motion to table it?
I don't, so here's my thing.
So we have a motion on the table from Justin. Did we have a second from
Does
Scott?
anybody want to
What
say?
is the motion?
My motion, if I can pull this off
Do you want to read
again,
it back?
is,
I can find it.
I can do it,
Okay.
is to approve the hotel conditional use permit as outlined with the stipulations required and with the added condition that it meets the code text amendment as approved by the city at the next meeting, or however you want to phrase that.
So I'll second that.
Scott, go ahead and vote. We'll go the other way.
No.
Aye.
No.
No.
So then somebody needs to give adequate motion to, and include proper instruction for Rusty for what he needs for our positive recommendation to move to city council.
I motion to table, and we need a plan that complies with code. We need something that complies with city code.
And we need to think out parking.
Yep, that's part of the code, I think.
Yeah. I second that motion.
Okay, McKenna, vote.
Yeah, yes.
Aye. Aye.
No.
Aye.
No.
All right, so we're gonna move on to commercial development next. The first thing we look at there is the trash storage area. My recommendation to you is to approve the trash storage area. Again, this is a planning commission approval or denial.
I motion that we don't approve it because we don't have an accurate site plan right now.
I second.
Okay, never mind. You just go ahead. I'm not going to ask questions.
Somebody needs to outline to Rusty what needs to be explained.
Okay.
because I don't,
Is this the correct footprint of the site plan minus the difference in the parking and landscaping?
go ahead, Rusty. Is that it?
That's it.
So if these trash storage areas meet the code,
Okay,
then that's what we're
Then-
looking at.
okay, then I make a motion to approve the trash.
I second that.
I'm concerned about what Mr. Earl brought up, though, because he did talk about somebody getting in and being able to get to the trash cans and being able to empty it without being infringed upon with traffic.
Oh, yeah, they're 60-foot straight.
Yeah.
I would make a recommendation, so I guess let's hold off on this vote, that trash storage facility number 5 be twisted to a line straight on as opposed to kitty corner, so that you gain 65 feet of straight access for a garbage truck.
It can be big enough, the dumpster can, it doesn't have to be perfectly straight inside that trash.
Do you see the visual, how the visual gives the impression with the thing? Like, I understand the trash is actually behind the curbing and the box is out, but like twist it so that it aligns with the thing, if it's gonna get you an approval. I don't care which way it orients as long as they can get the trash. Scott, you'll
So
speak.
it meets our code. Now, whether or not the Republic driver or whoever the driver is has to get out and pull the dumpster out to do it, to make it work, I think it makes sense for him to make it right and do it right, but as far as what our code says, I think it meets our code.
Okay.
I don't disagree that the Republic or whoever the driver is gonna have to get out and probably move that, but
Is there any,
Meets our code.
is there any objection to turning that so that it meets the 65 feet suggested by the public and that it aligns so that the driver can back straight in?
Yeah, we'll make it the most functional way, yes.
Perfect. I vote we approve the trash plan with the, are they both labeled number
Okay,
5?
so
I think it's just
Or-
how that's
you're
labeled.
doing her motion?
I'm
Like
overdoing
it
her
goes to the
motion.
key of what that is. So it's the trash storage.
So that would be the e-storage be aligned with the flow of traffic.
Okay.
Does anybody want to second that?
So which one? Do we have a motion in progress, though? How does that?
Yes, that's what it's supposed to
McKenna, what was the
McKenna,
motion?
okay, McKenna,
can-
just add the
Oh,
motion.
I just amend my motion to make it so it's not kitty corner, align it with the street.
Let it die.
Let it die. I let my motion die.
Motion dies.
Okay.
So Canopy motion to approve e-storage to be aligned with the flow of traffic.
Yep, that's what I have.
Okay.
Somebody second.
I second.
Vote, McKenna.
Okay, who seconded?
Rich.
Scott or
Rich.
I?
Rich second.
Just
Everyone.
support Rich. Yes.
McKenna, vote. please.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Okay, next up is parking. This is my recommendation, positively recommend approval of the parking plan contingent upon the applicant reaching a shared parking agreement for at least 21 stalls with Francis City.
Katie, does the 21 stalls meet the requirements that are outlined on the plans?
If they are able to get the reciprocal get that approved. Again, I will remind you, this goes back to the business licenses where we really decide whether or not to approve a business based on the parking. That's where the use is tied to.
So this is my question. Is it possible to meet what my peers are recommending on this without the business licenses? Like, we have no way of accurately reflecting.
Staff you will never see a business license. That is
Correct.
an administrative item handled by staff, but one of the things we look at is parking.
So there's no way to meet the proposed requirements.
But so what I'd say, so let's say, a hotel comes back in 3 stories, how many rooms does that have? That probably significantly shifts the parking requirements. That changes things up, and I think then it's easier to see how this works out. Right now, it feels like it's kind of held together by duct tape and prayers. And
yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I love you all, and it's been a pleasure serving on the council with you, but
This is when you quit?
I have no idea why this is any different than any other shell plan we've approved in the last 2 years. So I'm gonna make life easy on Suzanne and avoid the double votes because I'm driving her nuts, and just let you guys do what you're gonna do because it's gonna go down 3-2. I can already tell you that.
Scott might vote with us.
Got a
Not this
motion.
time. Not for that. I think it's,
I think you guys are really splitting hairs on this. If we can't even get an accurate count until business licenses and we never see business licenses, what are we doing?
I get that, but also after hearing the public tonight, do you really think it's a fair representation that we keep going forward without looking at it closer?
Looking at what? Remember, I voted against 4 stories too. I don't think 4 stories is in the best interest of the community, so I'm absolutely a 3-story guy.
But like Scott said, the 24/7 business needs to be amended as well.
Okay, so if we table, then you need to have a specific reason of what,
I guess
we're looking at whether or not it meets the code. So
it meets
parking is the opposite situation from the hotel.
Right.
Parking meets
code.
the code.
Like, it's very
That's
clear. I guess that's my legal analysis.
if it's contingent on the shared parking agreement,
Then you could table it stating that has to be approved, Katie?
that's what I just want, if you table it, it has to be very clear about what you expect to see different for it to come back again.
See, and I think the thing is whether or not a shared parking agreement even is kind of addresses concerns, right? Because if we're viewing that as a detrimental effect, then there can't be a shared parking agreement to
Okay, you're
address the
going,
concerns.
detrimental effects are going back to the conditional use. This
Yep.
is a parking agreement. Does it or does it not meet the code? And my recommendation is to approve with the contingency that we approve the shared parking agreement. Our code already allows for reciprocal uses. It has to come back to the planning commission, but that will come later as we add uses. They're not gonna have all the uses from the beginning.
Correct.
Okay, so
I motion to approve the parking. Swing.
Second.
Aye.
Did you say approve or improve?
No.
Hey, focus.
I.
No.
Okay,
Did you second?
I did. Parking passes.
It's coming back.
If it comes back, I've lost faith in that.
Okay, please.
All were in favor.
Huh?
No.
No.
He wasn't
Rich and I
in favor.
voted
Rich
no.
and Kim
I
were
was a
no.
swing vote.
Okay.
3-2.
You can tell I'm not afraid to force a split vote, unlike other government bodies.
All right, site plan, I would go to Scott's recommendation. Scott, remind us of your recommendation on the site plan.
I recommend that we approve it. We need to get, we got approval still. That goes through the process. Once they have what was from the city, they'll go with UDOT. Say this is what we're gonna do. UDOT will say, here's your access. Here's what you need to do.
How much longer do you think we could walk in
Yeah.
Sorry. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it takes a little bit of time. It's UDOT. So it could be a month, it could be 3 months.
Here's my thoughts on the site plan. The development is essentially the first thing that will be seen for people entering the city coming up the deckway. I don't think that it would be a good aesthetic representation of the city to have the first thing people see when they drive up the Dugway to be the sign representing the development on the restaurant portion that faces that 4-way stop. I think it should be something neutral, like a clock or something. I think that there should be more street access to the buildings. Right now, it looks like a fortress from the street and not an inviting city center development. So yeah, I'm not in favor of approving the site plan at all.
Okay, so it sounded to me like some of the recommendations you have go to the architecture and how some of the requirements for architecture, do you feel like they are still applicable to the site though? They're applicable to both?
Can you elaborate?
So the comment about the fortress and the design of that and the clock tower, I would consider all of those to be architectural elements.
Okay.
So what
The
is
landscape,
encompassed?
I mean, the site plan still isn't accurate right now.
Okay, so if you make a motion on that, then be specific about what's not accurate.
Okay.
Or what doesn't meet code even,
Also,
yeah.
we also recommended that the entrances of the site help mitigate those lights going into the existing houses. That's applicable to the
It's
site
all
plan,
tied
right?
together, right? It's kind of a.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with using landscaping to mitigate that. That's done in every fast food restaurant you've ever driven through. There's bushes around it. So I don't know that you necessarily need to move the whole entrance and exit, because then now you're starting to change parking spaces again and doing all of that sort of stuff. So in my opinion, this meets code. He has a reasonable landscape plan to mitigate your risk for moving that driveway. I just don't think we need to. And unless somebody can clearly articulate where it doesn't meet code, guys, again, I want to remind you, we make recommendations, we don't make approvals, and it has to be clear and concise.
Right, so we need to tie it to where it doesn't meet the code. We're not
Correct.
approving it.
So I make a motion that we approve the site plan as recommended by the city engineer
Second.
with the condition that UDOT approves it.
I think that's built in there.
Yeah, just part of my comments, yeah.
Oh, was it? I was reading up there.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, follow
Scott's-
the city engineer's recommendations, my bad. Scott, go ahead.
I already seconded. So
Okay.
yes.
No.
Yes.
Okay, so a quick question. So when we're approving the site plan, what exactly are we approving?
Part of that, Scott, go ahead. Grading, drainage.
Yeah, the grading drainage plans, the irrigation ditches, the water lines, the water sewer connections, the entrances onto the Spring Hollow Road, 32, 35.
All the civil plans.
all the civil plans.
Are they accurate
So you need to follow
Based-
Scott's recommendation.
based on the changes that we've seen?
And so I think the problem that we're having is this all ties back into, I mean, going back to McKenna's points in the headlights in the driveways or in the front, in the rooms of the houses, I think this all ties back to the conditional use permit. And that, I mean,
So what, I guess my question, you're talking about the drive-throughs I see, they can do that.
and she's saying the driveway also because the driveway is not aligned with other streets or
There's not
driveways.
another street right there. All
Yeah.
there is houses along there.
That's what I mean.
And unless we, it's a commercial project.
Yep.
We don't have a city street that it needs to tie into. So they're gonna have accesses where they can, UDOT will say you have to be so far away from the intersection. They're meeting those kind of codes. And that might not line up with somebody's driveway or whatever. There's not a road on the other side of the street. And the stuff that's on the other side of the street, I believe is also commercial, could be commercial. It's residential right now.
But it's
Right.
zoned commercial.
Use.
Yeah, and I think what McKenna's pointing out is that there's driveways on the other side of the road where you could align up the entrance with those and avoid that. And my point is, right, with the continuum,
UDOT might say it's gotta be 350 feet, and that might not line up with the driveway.
so you're saying they might say it's got to be exactly
They will.
350?
They will
Yes.
say,
Yes.
That is what he said.
That's what they've tried to design, what the UDOT guidelines are for that type of
Okay,
road.
so if they're saying exactly where it has to go,
Yes, it could go, it can be.
so they're not gonna say it
shorter
has to
than
be more than 100 feet from the intersection, they're saying it has to be 350 feet or,
that. It has to be at least 350 feet from the intersection.
Does it have to have planning commission approval to go to UDOT?
UDOT likes to see what you guys are making do, because they don't want to review it 2 or 3 times.
so but right now it's just arbitrarily chosen.
No, it was
According to
chosen.
UDOT guidelines.
Sorry.
They've looked at it and they said UDOT requires this. This part of the traffic study addresses this and said that their entrance is far enough away for that classification of the road.
And honestly, I don't want to see it move to the other side because I think it breaks up, to your point, the fortress thing. So if you move it to the other side of the drive-throughs, then you're going to have all buildings and then you'd have it at the end. Personally, I think that looks worse.
I can see the other hotel guys here. I just want to recommend that when you come with an accurate site plan that's like well baked.
All right. So is there any specific action that doesn't meet code for the site plan that anybody can cite? And I'm not trying to make you mad, Rich. I'm just saying.
Oh, no. I'm not, well, and I'm thinking, so if UDOT's really telling us where that has to go, then it seems.
UDOT has guidelines where you can say, you get one access, you get two, if they're proposing two, but they'll probably come back and say you get one access, just like they did down at the other one, they have one access there. Remember that? So UDOT's gonna say how many accesses you can get, so, and they have to be so far from the intersection, they can't be, if there's another commercial development down the road, you'll be so close to that one. So there's lots of
Lots of moving parts. So
stuff that
what,
we have to follow from UDOT.
okay, so where are we at on motions right now?
Well, we're waiting for you two to vote. It's 2-1 to approve the site plan with Scott's recommendations.
Okay, then I'll go with aye.
Okay. McKenna, do you want to approve the site plan as recommended by the city engineer? And it actually doesn't matter, so just vote.
No.
Okay, passes 3-2.
There you go.
Who else was the other no?
Kim.
Okay.
All right, moving on to landscape plan. My recommendation was to table and ask the applicant to update the plan so that it complies with the code and does not conflict with the site plan.
I make a positive recommendation that we table this.
That's two recommendations.
So I
You can table
motion
or
to
you can
table.
positive, but you can't do it.
I
at
make
the
a
same-
recommendation that we table this until the plans align and it complies with city code, because I think there was, when I was reading through something about trees and easements or something.
Yeah.
I second
we went
that.
through all that.
That's seconded. Let's vote, please. Scott?
Aye.
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 Kate?
We were unanimous.
Oh, agreed.
We're getting there. By Lord, we'll get there.
Okay, architectural design. This is a positive or negative recommendation. This will go to council. Discuss whether the renderings meet the intent of code. And I will read those to you in a minute. If a positive recommendation is given, make it contingent upon the approval of the ordinance to allow the 4 stories. This is what our code says on this. This is what, if we have any comments, it has to tie back to what our code says on this specific item, okay? The review will determine if the developer has effectively incorporated a mountain aesthetic with neutral colors that is in harmony with the surrounding landscape and structures. Structures are limited to 3 stories. The maximum building coverage, 55%. They can't exceed 45 feet in height. That is our code on architectural design and materials. So if you don't think it meets that, be specific as to why you don't think it meets that code. Okay.
So I'll make a motion for a positive recommendation that it meets those standards and it's contingent upon approval of the ordinance. I realize that we didn't put forward a positive recommendation. That does not mean that it's not going to be approved. when it moves
It will
forward.
go to the council, right?
Right? So that still hangs in the balance. So put that up.
So you're motion for positive recommendation because it meets the standards and what?
With the condition that it meets, that it,
approval, and approval in particular in this case would mean the council. Doesn't say positive recommendation. Approval.
Approval of the code text
the
amendment.
ordinance.
Yeah,
the code text amendment ordinance.
correct. I'll second.
Aye.
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 I'm a no.
No.
Okay. Katie, you need to review outdoor lighting. I feel like we talked about this pretty good, but
My recommendation is to positively recommend approval. You talked a little bit about the security lighting. That was the only thing that stood out to me as being a question. So it sounded from the applicant like they were willing to reduce the lighting. They weren't sure about getting to 50%, but they were willing to reduce it to some degree after 11. Do you have a percentage that you would be willing to reduce it by? Do you have anything that we can put a number on?
I think, I think we can safely say we're already less than half. I mean, I would safely say 25%.
So reduced by 25% after 11 because of security reasons and the 24-hour business.
Yeah, based
Okay.
off of that.
right. So essentially, we're talking about down to parking lot safety lighting. I mean, really,
Yeah.
as bare essentials is what we're.
The bare essentials is what we're aiming to do.
Yeah. Okay. I will make a motion for a positive recommendation to council that we approve the outdoor lighting with staff recommendations and to the extent possible, lighting reduction as.
Can I throw in one thing more? And with any conditions that arise as part of the conditional use permit process.
I like it.
Oh my gosh, say that again.
Okay, slow it down.
Somebody let the
Candy,
lawyers talk.
Motion, positive recommendation to council with approval of staff recommendation and what?
And subject to any conditions from the
No,
conditional
this
use
is the
permit.
end of, and you're adding,
Hey, if this is gonna get it done, like,
Yeah.
okay,
like,
recommendations and subject to,
Conditions as part of the conditional use permit process.
Okay,
Not sure
I
about
didn't hear anything about the 25% reduction after 11. Did you have that in your motion?
Yeah, I just said to the extent possible, reduce lighting after 11
Okay,
as proposed by Rusty at an
to
additional,
extent possible.
additional 25%. What I don't want to do with outdoor lighting, I don't want to sacrifice safety for dark skies. I am a big proponent of dark skies. I'm all about it, but at the end of the day, it's not worth somebody getting hurt or killed or worse to reduce lighting.
Okay, all right.
okay, so who
I
seconded?
feel like we could go there.
Do we need a we need a second?
We need a second.
I second.
You can rotate. It's a choose your own adventure today. McKenna.
You could second.
No,
Aye.
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 Oh,
Look at us. We're working out our differences.
Good job.
Right,
We made it through the town center for today.
So,
What's
yeah,
next?
so hold on, I'm gonna go out of order. I motion that approval of minutes be denied.
Hold on. We have a whole nother commercial development.
I know, but I need to do minutes.
So I
I'm
think
gonna
that,
reject minutes. I need to make changes.
Let him
There's
do it.
grammatical errors all
Okay.
throughout it.
okay, so you're gonna,
I was gonna say I vote that minutes be put off till next month.
okay, and you're gonna be excused and then Rich will take over as the chair. the
Yes,
vice
and then
chair.
I'm
Okay.
gonna say that I will print it and mark it up and give it back to you guys.
Yeah, I second that.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
I,
And then how long do you estimate Wolf Creek, Katie?
It's hard to say, but I don't think it'll be too long, but it is the time you gotta go, so. if
I
you
mean,
would
I can
like-
do 15 minutes if,
I think it'll take longer than that.
I know, there's state laws, I could be arrested.
I am happy to
Okay.
keep going. You can leave whenever, or you can leave now and we
I'll
can
go ahead
turn
and
it over to
excuse
Rich.
myself and turn it over to my buddy. I do apologize, city, but planes get delayed and canceled and flights get missed, so gotta draw it there.
Okay.
But I do think we should put in considerations for time limits on these things.
Yeah, well, we
And
could
I know
have,
that's tricky, but
it's really tricky.
I think we need to have a conversation about that at some point.
yeah, maybe 2 meetings.
so if you do that, then you have to do 2 meetings a month.
Sometimes that might work. It's really hard to estimate
Yeah.
how long these things will
I think
take.
we're open to 2 meetings.
I talked to somebody today that said Summit County had some 10-hour meetings, so keep that in
No.
perspective, like, and I've heard other
Never-
municipalities that have like 5+ hour
I
meetings
guess it's
regularly.
more of and I don't think it's real, I think
Yeah.
it's more of a like, some of us have to be able to plan around this.
Yeah.
And if we don't have a hard stop, we can make it whatever we think we need to make it.
In all the years I've done this, though, I think after 9 o'clock, you're done.
You are.
Right,
Well,
but
Clearly, we're wearing them down.
Yeah, we all started
I
agreeing.
know.
but we
By 9
also
o'clock, I was done doing minutes.
So
have to process applications in a timely manner. So that's usually why, but sometimes we might need to schedule extra meetings, so we'll
Just
keep
food
that
for
in
thought.
mind. Good
All
plan.
right,
I like it.
Present that to the mayor.
We
We
won't have a
usually
tie vote
try to
now.
not have as much.
Yeah, you guys are
We
hosts.
won't have a
better-
tiebreaker.
You guys
Yeah.
better all agree.
Scott's
Thanks,
host.
everyone. Sorry.
Wait,
Good luck.
right?
What's happening now?
We're just set up for
Your
ties.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep, okay, so moving on to Wolf Creek Junction. So do we start out with the staff report?
We do.
Perfect. Katie?
I'm just gonna start closing things till I get to it.
Is it Bob?
Okay.
Bobby.
Thanks for your comments. Spot on.
Okay. So Wolf Creek Junction, Blind Rabbit LLC, represented by Barry Primos, is the owner of parcel FT 14B, located at 1349 South State Road 32. If you know where Premier Storage is, this is the same site. It has a building in front of it that has a carport. That was all previously approved as a landscaping company. That didn't work out for some reason, so Barry Primos purchased the property. He had a commercial development that it was approved a couple years ago. He would like to change that. He's updating the architectural plans, utilizing the same metal structures, but they have a different roof line. The front facade has an updated design and will be constructed with different materials. In the updated site plan, one structure was eliminated. So before there was a structure, sorry, this is not fitting on here. Okay, there was a structure on this side here that has been taken out. So we went from 5 new buildings to 4. The landscape plan was also updated and an outdoor lighting plan was submitted. We didn't have one before, so now we do. That's fantastic. Mr. Primos has made some efforts to complete portions of the landscaping that was approved with the Falling Waters. He added some trees and ground cover along the frontage, still not quite where Falling Waters had what they had approved, but we knew that more development was coming, so we just kind of waited. Mr. Primos was granted approval to construct a parking structure. The building permit was issued in October 2022. In December 2022, a commercial development plan, I went over that, was approved. A building permit for the shell of building number 5 was issued in November 2023. Just as a note, both permits expired. They were recently renewed, but we did have some expired permits. So, okay, let's get into trash storage. You all are very familiar with that now. So, it has to be enclosed. They're showing it on the site plan. Let's see. It's right here where it was before. We actually don't need to make any motion on this because nothing has changed from the other approvals. So I'm just going to skip that. We're not even going to look at that anymore. It's the same location, so it's already approved. Parking areas. The layout of the parking areas meets the code requirements and the provision that parking shall not occur adjacent to any public street. The minimum number of parking spaces is set by the off-street parking code. 2 spaces per 1,000 square feet are required for business or professional offices. The total building area of the existing and proposed structure is 18,840 square feet. 38 parking stalls are required. 50 stalls are shown on the site plan, including 5 ADA accessible stalls. The parking area is compliant with the code. Next up is site plan. The building layout meets the setback requirements. Again, we'll go over to Scott for his recommendations on that, so we'll just pause that for a minute. I will know that they do depict the 20-foot easement, which we like to see, so thank you for putting that on there. The irrigation easement. As far as the landscape plan, let me flip over to that one. Again, we've been through all these requirements, so I'm not going to read them. I'll just read how they do that. And sorry, this is taking a minute to load, but you should have it on your packets too. Trees shall be planted at a rate of at least 1 tree per 20 feet along the public street. The applicant shall provide appropriate guarantees on the trees, or they shall have, sorry, I'm reading the code. The landscape plan shows 23 6-foot conifers, 2 different species of junipers. 21 2-inch caliper deciduous trees are planned, 8 honey locust and 13 Japanese tree lilac. 15 trees are planned along the State Road 32 frontage, which is about 250 feet long, at an overall rate of about 1 tree per 17 feet. It appears that 2 of the honey locusts and 2 of the Japanese tree lilacs are placed in the irrigation easement. So that's back here. These trees should be removed or relocated. 47 deciduous shrubs, 33 evergreen shrubs are also planned throughout the development. They have a variety of perennials and native shrub grasses. All ground areas are covered by non-irrigated native grass or crushed rock. No trees are planned within 45 feet of the State Road 32 intersection. The landscape plan is compliant with code and standards except the trees in the irrigation easement. Okay, looking at the architecture. The city center and commercial architectural codes are slightly different. This is what we're looking for in in the commercial. They have to be designed with a common theme that reflects the heritage and community of Francis City. They shall be reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission and City Council and may include but are not limited to agricultural or mountain tourism. All sides of the building shall receive equal design consideration, especially where exposed to vehicular traffic. Facade shifts shall be encouraged on structures with a width greater than 50 feet or at neighboring property lines. So they're proposing 4 of these 50 by 75 foot metal buildings in the canyon red color. Each building will have 3 units. The outside units have a matte black door and garage door. The center units have double entry doors and a mountain blend stone facade. Matte black metal canopies are planned above the doors and garage doors. Mountain blend stone placed around the lower portion. So just to run through this, this is the stone they're looking at. This is the canyon red color on the metal. This is the garage door and trim color. It's matte black. This is what the door would look like and the glazing on the glass. Okay. So nearby developments that we're trying to compare these to are the Premier Pet Lodge. They have a forest green metal building. The Premier Storage is tan and brown, and the planned modern farmhouse designed Route 32 development. So keep that in mind because it kind of needs to tie in. That's what our code says. Okay, last is the outdoor lighting plan. Parcel is 2.26 acres, so they're allowed 226,000 lumens. They have 4 parking lot lights planned.
At 20 feet, right?
They are at 20 feet, and our code says they can't be more than 18 when they're adjacent to residential zones.
Which it is.
Which it is. That's right. Outdoor lighting shall be turned off or reduce total lumen usage output 50%. We went through all this. There's a couple different types of fixtures planned for the parking. They are all full cutoff. There's 12 walkway lights kind of around the buildings, around the front, and each entrance. There's some sconces and then some different wall sconces, a couple different fixtures, but they are both full cutoff. Those are mounted at 8 feet and 16 feet, so those walkway lights do meet code. They didn't note anything about turning or reducing lighting by 11 p.m., so I recommend that you discuss that with them. My recommendations are for parking, positively recommend approval. Site plan, positive or negative, follow the engineer's recommendation. Landscape plan, approve with the condition that the 2 Japanese tree lilacs be moved to another location along State Road 32 outside of the irrigation easement. And then the 2 that are in the irrigation easement, the 2 honey locusts just be removed. So we lose those ones. And then architectural, again, that goes to you, positive or negative. Outdoor lighting plan, recommend a positive recommendation is to discuss the security lighting with them. Public hearing is not required for this item. Okay, that's it for me. I believe Scott has a staff report.
So the water, they're going to connect to the existing maintenance line they shared, is installed in the driveway for storage. The sewer, they're going to connect to the sewer main and the SR 32. The storm drain, they're going to retain on site. You can see there's a big storm drain pond. We need fire district approval to see if they have any comments. If they're going to require fire protection of buildings and that, you know, show that right now. Other than that, the site plan meets our code.
Okay. Applicant, do you have anything you want to come up and add or talk about the lighting at least?
So I'm John Davis. I'm the developer's architect. I've been helping Barry. So like she said, this has already been approved once. I came in after that and trying to help him get this development going. Regarding the lighting, certainly we can reduce the heights of those lights. I don't know about the security lighting in the parking lot. I don't think we would have any issue with reducing that light level come 11 o'clock, whatever.
By 50%?
Sure.
Okay.
50%.
I do have some questions. Why are you removing the trees?
Well, that's my recommendation.
Why?
So there's an irrigation easement here, and we don't like to see trees in an irrigation easement. let's see, I could be pointing to the wrong
They're
location.
down- They're down.
Yeah, sorry, I
So
didn't
they're-
even get there yet.
They're right here, which is on the
That's right. Thank you,
south
John.
end. So there's an irrigation ditch that goes right here, so we can take those trees and relocate them
Okay.
elsewhere.
I'm
on the
volunteering my home.
property. What's that? Oh, you're.
Also, by the way, the aesthetics are really nice. So I drove by and you already have what looks like a hardened shell, but it doesn't look like that. Is that going to change into one of those?
It is, so what's out there right now was what was previously approved. He
Well,
has.
not quite. It's
or
not done yet.
How, oh, okay, maybe it's not done.
It's just the shell.
It's just, I
without
know
the
it doesn't look
architectural
like that.
features.
Oh, the shell without the architectural features. So I guess he's already purchased the buildings that look like that.
Okay.
So we've taken those building footprints and tried to, give them some canopies, pop out that middle entrance and just try to give them a little bit of articulation.
Are you going to sell the one that you have existing there now?
I'm not sure what he's gonna do.
Okay.
No,
So,
no, we're gonna modify that building.
oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna.
That would be the easiest thing to do,
Yeah.
I would think. In our information, it said that there was the opportunity for an operation to be 24 hours. What is that?
Where was that at, Kim? I didn't see that.
It was letter A, before letter B.
Do you have a page? Oh, it's on the lighting plan. That's the city code. That if they have a 24-hour operation, they don't have to reduce their lighting. There's an exception. But that's our city code. That's
So
not
you
their
don't plan
plan.
on having anything running 24 hours?
I don't, but I also don't know who's going to be going into these buildings.
Okay. Well, that's against our code.
No, it's fine. We don't have to know right now what exact uses are. If there is a conditional use later, that would get approved later. Yeah, I mean, uses can change. That can be fluid.
That was for the light or the business? Because it says operating 24 hours.
Okay, so I'm gonna pull up the,
That's for the lighting. Outdoor lighting shall be turned off or reduced total lumen usage output 50% by 11 p.m. except for the following conditions. A, operations that are open for 24 hours. B, lighting that's been. approved by
Okay.
the city.
that's the city
Okay.
code requirement.
All right.
Not their project plan.
Okay, that's all I had.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from
Anything
you
else from
or
you?
questions?
No.
Okay, then, Scott, do you want to start us off?
Well, we have a motion, don't we?
Well, I think some comments first.
Just broadly, I think that this project looks great. I think that if we were to get into, can we pull back to the different approvals? Where
Sure.
the staff recommend all that, just kind of break that down so we can see.
I
where
will,
there
yeah,
might be
I will try to
discussion.
pull that up. I think let's see. Planning Commission. Yeah, that did work out well last time, just to have them up there.
It did.
Okay. And it popped us right into the middle of it, super helpful. Okay, here's the recommendations.
Okay. So in looking at this, for me, across the board, I think that the project looks great. And I'm prepared to move forward with the recommendation for all 5 of those line items positively. But my colleagues here should have the opportunity. So if there's some things here that we don't need to get into as much, then we can make that determination. That's right.
Okay, Kim?
Well, the 2 feet for the light need to come down from the 20 feet to 18. Otherwise, I love it. I love the layout. I think you're respecting the residential people behind you. The tree line looks good from the front. You're entering it off of 1700 South, I think. I mean, it's really done well.
So my 2 cents for Justin, he hates metal buildings. If he was here, he would tell you all about how he hates metal buildings. Personally, I don't like the look of this more modern mountain thing, but it looks like the building's going up along the 40. It looks like a lot of the higher end houses with the roof line and different things that I see. And it sounds like the building's already there.
Oh, and it aligns with what's across the street.
Yep.
It really does.
Yeah, I would agree with Rich with, in regards to the buildings. In regards to the landscaping plan, I think it would be really cool if we started looking at some retention ponds that are not just crushed gravel, but instead incorporated like natural materials. So we don't have to spray a bunch of pesticides, but like we can do sumac, we can do rabbit brush or sagebrush and different types of fescue. I think it would be really cool to make like a natural retention ditch that you don't have to spray, that absorbs some of that water that you're retaining. Yeah, I don't think it needs to be a part of the motion, but
Just for future.
future consideration, I think we should
Maybe a
look
code
into that.
amendment
I
along
think,
those lines.
yeah, a code amendment could be great for that.
So am I reading the room right that everybody's positive? Can we?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we forward a positive recommendation on all 5 line items as noted to include the 18-foot thing, which you.
Okay, I'm gonna pause you right there because we do have to approve or deny the landscape plan.
Okay.
That doesn't go to council. That's on you guys.
So can
And
you
I
change-
just, I'm gonna flip over to my recommendations and just maybe consider following those if you want to.
Okay, so let's finish this. We begin a motion to forward with a positive recommendation.
All 5
for-
items.
So is it 5 or 6 items total?
There's,
5.
So.
There's
You want to
5.
kill your motion fast and
5
let's
items.
keep
You
going?
can
It's
motion.
dead.
Okay, we killed the motion.
Okay,
but
can
we
I-
killed the motion,
Here,
so.
can I make a motion? I would make a motion that we approve the landscaping plan and the outdoor lighting plan.
Hold on, you can't approve the lighting plan. That's a positive or negative recommendation.
Oh, okay, you're right.
You're only approving
Positively
the
recommend approval for the, okay. So
only one that you're approving or
Is
denying is the
landscaping.
landscaping.
I make a motion that we approve the landscape plan and positively recommend the parking, site plan, architectural design, and outdoor lighting plan.
Okay, so you motion to approve the landscape and positively approve what?
And positively recommend the parking, site plan, architectural design, and outdoor lighting plan
With the city staff recommendations?
with city staff recommendation.
Any second?
I'll second.
Aye.
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 All right, that was easier.
Okay, that's,
Okay,
is,
all right. Next up, let me pull up the agenda here. We already went through the minutes.
so staff update.
Yeah, so we're on staff update. I'm gonna be real quick. If you did not attend the open and public meetings training, so that's everyone but Kim that's here right now. Please try to watch it on YouTube and let me know if you did. And if you did, then we will make sure you're compensated for that, for attending a meeting. But just send me a text and let me know. The training slides are in Dropbox in the planning commission file.
Could you send us a link to the YouTube again?
If you go to the agenda,
Oh, is it there?
agenda and you click that,
Got
Oh,
that right now.
perfect.
then
Let's-
it'll
let's bring
take you
that up
to
next.
all of the previous videos.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Okay.
Never mind.
Conflict of interest forms need to be filled out. We've already gotten a couple of these. If you haven't, please grab one. We need to get these back and up on our website pretty soon, by the end of the month. So we need them back. I'm also going to hand out the planning commission payment request. If you did attend the training last week, please put that on there, Kim, and I'll do one for Justin. Sorry, I forgot those earlier. There is what's called a community planning lab that's held by the county. I've heard really good things about it. It is a series of classes. If you are interested in that, let me know and I will get you the application. It is an application process, but I've heard amazing things about the community
Who's it with?
planning lab.
Is it with ULI?
It's with Summit County, Madeline McDonough. She's one of the staff planners and she's great and I've heard good things. So let me know if you want to apply for that.
When is it?
It is starting up in the next month or so, and it's a series of meetings. There's not just one specific date. You apply to it, and then you find out when the meetings are. And I think that there is an online option if you're interested in that. But if you want it, let me know, and I'll forward you the email, Okay, just shoot me a text. At the next meeting, we will elect a chair and vice chair. I forgot to put that on the agenda tonight. My apologies. So just think about that for the next meeting. And that is it for me for my planner update.
Excellent. Then do we need a motion to adjourn or can we just
We
adjourn?
do.
Any motion?
I seconded that we motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Is that a motion?
I motion to adjourn and we've got a
I
second.
second.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you,
You all have a good
everyone. I
night.
really appreciate your time tonight.
Then this is yours. Actually, Nick, can I borrow it?
I've got extra pens. Does someone need an extra? Do you want to take a pen home?
I just want my pen, but that was like my.
Oh.
It was like